Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the C Podcast featuring Hex and Shin. As always, my name is Shogun Shin, and I am joined by my co-host Hex Ginkgo. And Hex, this is episode, I believe, 29 of the C Podcast, which is very, very exciting. Last episode we finished Arcane, and so we can't do that for this episode today. But that's okay, because I am here to bring you some very interesting news stories that I have been hearing, that I've heard over the past week or so. And we'll also be for this episode, we'll also be reading off some Am I the Asshole on Reddit. So that'll be a lot of fun. But, okay, so, Hex, I want to ask you, do you know who the Queen is of, like, Britain?
Elizabeth? Yeah.
So
the second?
Yeah. The second, okay? Now, what if I told you that that she's not actually the queen, and there's a real queen? An actual, like a real one that actually is the rightful ruler of Canada and Britain.
I'd be interested.
Well,
and shocked that I hadn't heard this before.
Yeah, so let me introduce you to a woman named Romana DeDulo. Romana DeDulo, all right? And she apparently is the real queen. 2 years ago, she declared herself the queen, commander-in-chief, and head of government in Canada. She also claims that the real Queen Elizabeth II is dead, and she was executed. So, okay, there's that.
All right, so I did a real quick search. I'm gonna we can continue to talk about this, but I am already tuned out because she has QAnon followers.
So that is another thing, is that she is a very she is the self-proclaimed QAnon Queen of Canada. That is kind of like her title of that, what she is proclamating. But so again, 2 years ago, she declared herself queen, commander-in-chief, and head of government in Canada. She also claims that the real Queen Elizabeth II has been executed, which isn't true. That's completely wrong. Queen Elizabeth II is relatively alive and well. But according to, and I guess she puts out videos, or at least vlogs in some capacity, I guess. But I'm reading this off of this news article, which if people want to read along, I put it in the podcast channel in our Discord. But according to her videos, DeDulo was personally appointed by Donald Trump, as well as the U.S. military and the people she says seized the assets of the Vatican and the fake royal family in the UK.
What the fuck?
She also claimed to be an alien-adjacent being who is willing to share advanced medical technology with her followers.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so she does this via Telegram, which I assume is some sort of app or some sort of video app.
Yeah, it's as far as I know, and I don't mean to be rude, I'm pretty sure it's like an old person app.
Yeah. Her Telegram counts over 60,000 followers, many of them coming from the QAnon conspiracy theory movement. A major component of her ideology is a militant opposition to vaccines, with her having called them a crime against humanity and declaring Canada a vaccine-free nation. In the summer of 2021, she organized her followers into groups that distributed hundreds of cease and desist letters to businesses, government offices, and police, ordering them to halt all measures combating the pandemic. In November, she instructed her Telegram followers to shoot to kill anyone trying to inject children under the age of 19 with coronavirus vaccines. A few days later, she changed the wording from shoot to kill to arrest. So, there's that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, there's that. But, so the reason I thought this story was interesting was because, again, just the title itself is fascinating. But I guess recently, so that was last year. Recently, though, she got a group of around 30 people to conduct a citizen's arrest on the entire Peterborough Police Department in Ontario on Saturday. I believe this is this past Saturday.
The thing that I was reading said it was just 3. Or maybe it was only 3 that were charged.
Yeah. So they were brought there and directed to do so by DeDulo, the self-proclaimed Queen of Canada. whom they believe to be the country's true leader in an underground war against a supposed global cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophilic cannibals that control the world. Dedulo and her followers have been planning for the event for weeks, posting about it on her Telegram and even creating a website. On the website, she writes, "You who amongst you are prepared and ready to keep your city safe, peaceful, and secure after you peacefully arrested Peterborough, Ontario police?" Dedulo asked days before on Telegram. On Saturday afternoon, while Dedulo remained in her RV, which is apparently what she lives in, the group marched from Confederation Park to the Water Street police station, but upon arriving, they discovered the front door was locked. Attempts to bang on the door and use the intercom failed, so members of the group shouted at the cops through a megaphone and called 911 to ask them to come outside.
Please come, let us arrest you.
Imagine getting a call on 911, just being like, 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, if you could come out so I could arrest you, that would be great.
So, you said they were trying to do citizen's arrest on police officers.
On police officers, yes.
Okay, so obviously this is Canada. That they have different laws. But if they're anything like U.S. laws, citizen's arrests are super hard to do. And I'm pretty sure you cannot do them on police officers.
I'm fairly certain. I mean, like, I feel like you can. Obviously, I don't know but I feel like you can. I feel like you should be able to. Given the kind of current climate of the world, that may not be the weirdest thing to do. But I don't know. I don't know that. But you are correct though in that I believe 2 people on the day were charged with stuff, and then on Sunday a third man was charged for assaulting an officer. Afterwards, the group wandered around the property in search of another entrance for several hours, and at one point, Dedulo handed out vegetables and sardines on paper plates, as well as previously opened water bottles. Eventually, members of the group found a restricted area where police vehicles are stored, at which point several officers arrived for their shift. Some of the conspiracy theorists tried to detain the officers, who in turn arrested them instead. Videos posted on social media show 2 men resisting arrest while a woman screams. One of the men is eventually seen being dragged along the ground and into the police station. Later, the department announced that 2 men had been arrested and charged for assaulting police, resisting arrest, and mischief. So
you gotta love Canada.
Oh, right, yeah. Also,
it's not like disturbing the people. It's mischief.
It's mischief, yeah. It's
they're
like
just performing some mischief.
That being said, I feel like the crime of mischief doesn't sound like a crime. It sounds like, what you would call like your children, like random children in your neighborhood, what they were doing. It's like, they're up to mischief, those darn kids. Like imagine going to prison and being some of your cellmate asking, so what are you in for?
Mischief.
I committed mischief. Yeah.
You're just like. So like, I looked up description of citizen's arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Citizen's arrest is legal across the United States, but the details vary state by state, like the legality or not legality, the ways in which you can use them vary state by state. So in Oregon, here, it says a private person may arrest another person for any crime committed in the presence of the private person if there is probable cause to believe they committed the crime. That's pretty blanket statement, and I would be shocked if it changed. But depending on many other states, if anything, it would probably be even more wide open.
I mean, there are I don't quite remember, but do you remember there was a murder of do you remember the story of these 3 white guys? They chased down, but because I don't quite remember, but they chased down a black jogger, and they killed him because they thought he was they were gonna they basically were doing a citizen's arrest, but they ended up killing the dude. God, it feels so bad that I don't remember what his name was.
I don't
but
recall.
it was part of the Black Lives Matter type thing.
Oh damn.
I want to
Didn't hear
say
about that.
it was. Oh God, it feels bad that I'm like bringing this up, but I don't remember his name. And it's like, I think that just says something of just how many of these stories happen that you just
Yeah.
like. Sometimes it's just hard to remember all these moments because there are so many of them. But it was like, I'll try to find it.
Okay. So in regards to a citizen's arrest, this is actually a statement coming from the Lane County District Attorney, which I believe is in Eugene. This article is about I believe something that happened in Eugene, city in Southern Oregon. She said, "In my 30-plus years here, I have not had an occasion to review a case initiated by a citizen's arrest. There is no protection from liability for a false arrest. It could be incredibly dangerous, and I would not want to suggest it as a good idea." That's why, like, yeah, anybody can do it, but you have to, like, really have evidence.
Yeah.
And you, like... There can be no disputing what you're doing
If you
because
saw
you do not have.
if you saw the person commit the crime, that's probably a good enough thing.
Well, but even then, you can still be liable because, like, you might be since you have no position of authority.
Yeah.
It is always safer to just call somebody than to try and perform a citizen's arrest, because if it's something like physical, like if you saw somebody committing a murder. Maybe don't try and citizen's arrest that person.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, that's fair.
For your own safety.
Yeah.
Like, yes, obviously you want this person to get caught, but, like, contact the authorities. That's a much safer endeavor. And also, like, you don't know what you could tamper with. You don't know what you could, like, change in regards to their account of the story. Like, you might have to, like, come up with your own alibi as to why you were there. You know, it can tie you to the crime.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea. And the fact that people are trying to do that against actual authorized police officers in Canada is just even more stupid, because it's like, did they do this in front of the police station? You said that they called them to have them come outside, right?
Yeah.
So chances are you're on video camera. You are a private citizen arresting someone who holds authority, or attempting to arrest somebody who holds authority. You have zero leg to stand on. Also, they have, like, what are you arresting them with? Like, are you armed, or do you just have handcuffs, or are you just gonna, like,
just brute strength, baby? Them? Just these guns are all you need.
Yeah,
you're already packing heat.
What's the where you come up from behind somebody and you just
full
like,
Nelson?
Full, yeah, you just give them a full Nelson and you just like noogie them, and you're like, you're under citizen's arrest.
All right, so the story that I was talking about is the victim was Ahmaud Arbery. That was his name. But he was fatally Ahmaud Arbery was a 25-year-old black man who was chased in his neighborhood by three neighbors, three white neighbors, Travis McMichael, his father Gregory McMichael, and their neighbor William Bryan. The story reads, this is off the New York Times, but it reads, they were motivated by racism when they chased Mr. Arbery through their neighborhood, and they were convicted of each convicted of a federal hate crime. The story goes is that on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020, so this was 2 years ago, shortly after 1 p.m., Arbery was killed in the neighborhood after being confronted by a white man and his son. Mr. Arbery was running in Satilla Shores when a man standing in his front yard saw him go by, according to a police report. The man, Gregory McMichael, said he thought Mr. Arbery looked like a man suspected in several break-ins in the area and called to Travis McMichael, his son. According to the police report, the men grabbed a .357 Magnum handgun and a shotgun, got into a pickup truck, and chased Mr. Arbery, trying unsuccessfully to cut him off. A third man was also involved in the pursuit, according to the report and other documents. In a recording of the 911 call, which appears to have been made moments before the chase began, a neighbor told a dispatcher that a black man was inside a house that was under construction on the McMichaels block. During the chase, the McMichaels yelled, "Stop, stop, we want to talk to you," according to Gregory McMichael's account in the police report. They then pulled up to Mr. Arbery, and Travis McMichael got out of the truck with a shotgun. Gregory McMichael stated the unidentified male began to violently attack Travis, and the two men then started fighting over the shotgun, at which point Travis fired a shot, and then a second later there was a second shot, the report states. The police report and other documents do not indicate that Mr. Arbery was armed. Gregory McMichael is a former blah, blah, blah. But yeah,
we don't need to know anything about them.
But then so
except
he
for
he was shot and killed. And the sad part is that Arbery lived in that neighborhood. And there are multiple accounts of the fact that neighbors saw him jogging in his neighborhood multiple times. And so a lot of people got very, very upset by this story.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and I think the idea of a blanket statement of being, or the blanket statement of a citizen's arrest of like that, I think is maybe not a motivator, but it definitely is like it's an excuse
that people can easily use in to justify their really shitty decisions or racially motivated hate crimes.
Yeah.
Like it's something I was actually just thinking about it recently. Back during the beginning of the pandemic, there was this man who was videotaped screaming at whoever was recording him, and he was like posturing, puffing his chest out. He was like, "I feel threatened. I feel threatened." Like just and his whole family was right there, and they're like, "Dad, like shut the fuck up, like go away." Because
I remember that.
Somebody told him to put a mask on.
If
I recall correctly, it was either I think it was at a Costco or a Walmart. And it was either a Costco employee or an old lady. And I'm like, really? You feel threatened by this either older person or somebody just doing their job? Like, people use these things to like, as an excuse to get away with shitty behavior. It was
unsurprisingly, it was in Florida.
Yeah, okay, it's Florida.
It was in Florida, so...
So in regards to Ahmaud Arbery, I just looked it up, and as of a couple hours ago, apparently, his killers just received their sentence.
Yep.
Life in prison.
2 life imprisonment, and 1 with 35 years.
Well, so the father and son, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Great. And then the other says 35 years in prison, and then it says life imprisonment without the possibility of parole after 30 years. But it was, so his federal sentence was 35 years in prison. His state sentence was life imprisonment without the possibility of parole after 30 years.
Yeah.
With the possibility.
Yeah.
So he's staying in prison for 35 years.
Yes.
The third man.
The third. Yes.
And so there's a whole bunch of shit that actually is involved with this, which is really sad. Obviously, like, no one should ever have to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
This is obviously a travesty, but apparently, in the aftermath of the murder, Georgia enacted hate crimes legislation in June 2020. Amazing. That's fantastic. Then repealed and replaced its citizens' arrest law in May of 2021. So you can't even do it anymore.
No, you can't. Yeah. So
because of shit like this.
Because of that. Yeah. It's that age-old thing of, people. You have a rule, and then the reason you have that rule though is because somebody fucked it up for the rest of us.
Yeah. Like you didn't think to just not drink the bleach.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Or eat the Tide Pods.
Eat the Tide Pods.
Yeah.
So. To circle back to the Romana Didulo thing.
Yeah, the queen.
Looking at some of her,
Canada.
The real queen of Canada.
you show a lot of some damn respect. How dare you?
A lot of these pictures that I'm seeing of her are like her sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
in like a dingy little room with the flag of Canada behind her, and I'm like, legit, this looks like the Taliban. Like straight up. Trying to put on an air of authority, but you can tell that she's like in a garage.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to. So you know those medical advancements I was telling you about that she was willing to share, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same day of the police arrest, all right, she claimed on Telegram that 4 XR001 CRISPR genetically modified super soldiers are being pulled from cold storage and will be deployed within the hour.
XR001.
XR-0001. 3 zeros.
0001.
CRISPR genetically modified super soldiers.
CRISPR. Okay.
Yeah. CRISPR, for those who don't know, is the I don't know if the experimental still. I think they might be in testing spaces, but it's a gene altering tool, medical tool that scientists are studying in the hopes of possibly using it as like genetically alter like birth defects, cancer, like rare like genetic diseases, that kind of stuff. On the flip side of that, people have also been like, oh, the rich can genetically modify their babies. But
I should not be looking this up because I'm definitely on the FBI's wanted list.
Dude, I just Googled.
I can't even find anything on
it. Well, I don't think there's anything about this specifically. If you search CRISPR, which is CRISPR, if you search CRISPR, you probably find stuff for that. But I mean, don't feel bad because I literally just Googled search black man killed by 3 white men. That's what I Googled search. Which
so I
unfortunately
looked
was
up the
very
CRISPR
easy to find my answer.
thing.
Yeah.
The only hits I'm getting from CRISPR super soldiers is China using CRISPR to create super soldiers. There's a couple of them, and then there's one about Ramana Didulo.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything else is like Chinese super soldiers.
Maybe include this in your search. So she also claims that the soldiers are formed by crossing the Y DNA of white rappers and Filipinos.
What?
Yeah, so because apparently white rappers, that is a race. And we have created the strongest race known to man.
So we're getting Eminem and the guy who sings for fucking Journey. I believe he's Filipino.
Yeah.
The current Journey frontman. I'm pretty sure is Filipino. He might be
Journey lead singer.
I thought, or maybe he's from Thailand.
Arnel Pineda? Yeah, he's Filipino.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Arnel Pineda mixed with
Eminem.
Slim Shady.
Yep.
You get
the strongest race known to man.
I'm pretty sure Pineda's like real short. Yeah, he's 5'4".
The strongest race, though. The strongest race. Big things in small packages.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like anybody mixing with white rapper is cause for concern.
I mean, I don't know, man. I didn't know white rapper was a race, to be honest. So,
I didn't either.
So, dude.
So you're just born being able to spit mad bars.
Exactly. 100%. It's encoded, man. Encoded.
I have zero reason to even respect Eminem now because it's
born
genetic.
With it. Yeah, he's just born with it. He's built different genetically.
That seems like cheating.
A little bit. All right.
Didn't he get some Grammys? I feel like we need to take those Grammys back. Eminem Grammys.
Speaking of lead singers, something I didn't know about the
Holy
lead
shit,
singer.
he's won 15 Grammys.
That's pretty good. I mean, Eminem's a very talented musician. Let's be real here.
Is he talented, or was it given to him by God?
That's true. That's fair. That's fair enough. That's
born
true.
This way.
But so I sent you this. I saw it on a TikTok. I sent this to you. But I didn't know that the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way, I did not know that he is the author of Umbrella Academy.
He's the author of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he's the author of a bunch of like comics.
He wrote Doom Patrol.
Like
Yeah, so when apparently when he was younger, he interned at Marvel, I think.
Okay.
And then because he lived in New York. And then 9/11 happened, and it inspired him to create My Chemical Romance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if it was like in between when the band
My Chemical Romance was
touring
formed in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's not. I guess that's not surprising.
And then he went to work for DC.
Yeah.
And then back around 2016, he actually created they let him create his own imprint. Basically just a little publishing name.
Yep.
Like DC has Vertigo.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about Vertigo. It's where Sandman and Hellblazer and Swamp Thing and all those guys live.
Yeah.
Kind of tertiary to the mainline stuff. So his was called Young Animal. And he tried to revive a bunch of older Vertigo titles. And unfortunately, it didn't go very well. But his run was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually been, oddly enough, just been meaning. I was literally just looking at his Doom Patrol run, and I was like, I kind of want to read that.
I saw this on a TikTok. It was talking about Gerard Way, and I was fascinated by it because again, I didn't know that he had made Umbrella Academy, which I've never read the series, but I know is very, very good.
Very popular.
Very popular. Popular enough to get a Netflix show.
A Netflix show that is also popular.
That's also popular.
Elliot Page.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Go Elliot Page.
Yeah, and then, but then also the Doom Patrol thing, to which the TikTok explains the Doom Patrol thing, and I guess that's where things get like kind of weird because I guess there's a character in Doom Patrol that is based off of Gerard's actual cat. And I guess the character in the comic book, the cat, it starts as just like a regular cat, but then apparently it becomes like humanoid, and then has sex with like the main female character in Doom Patrol apparently. So,
based, honestly.
Yeah, hella based, hella based.
That's some actual furry shit, and I'm down for it.
Yeah, it was like I've linked the TikTok in the podcast channel, but like it is absolutely fascinating, but it's so like it boggled my mind truly. Speaking of authors, do you remember the show iCarly on Nickelodeon?
Oh yeah.
And like so Jeanette McCurdy, Sam from iCarly.
Oh.
She just released a memoir. Yeah, she just released a memoir. And the title is "I'm Glad My Mom Died" by Jeanette McCurdy, which is just off
an
the
interesting
bat,
title.
Just a wild title. I think for
that'll make you. That'll prick your ears up. You're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and so like obviously this book has gotten a lot of attention because of the title, and Jeanette has gone on to talk about. That she was kind of like she was abused by her mom, who her mom
among other people,
and like her time acting and being a child actor for Nickelodeon and all that stuff.
Her mom died of cancer, right?
I think she died of cancer. Yeah, I think so. And it's not like it's like she's stated that. The title, like, she gets it. It's attention grabbing, but it's also something that she means sincerely. She's not just saying it in a flippant way. And I'm trying to find kind of like some examples of what she wrote. So McCurdy writes that when she was 8 years old, her mother insisted on wiping her behind after using the bathroom, claiming she did not believe McCurdy could do so correctly on her own. The actress said she experienced similar disturbing behavior through her tweens as her mother bathed and showered her, regularly giving her breast and front butt exams to check for cancer. McCurdy further alleges that her mother aided her in having an eating disorder when she was just 11 years old. In hopes of fighting off puberty, McCurdy told her mother she wanted to stay small. Her mother suggested they try calorie restriction, cutting McCurdy's intake to just 1,000 calories per day. Sometimes McCurdy said she would only eat 500 calories. She felt this restriction brought her closer to and impressed her mother. After struggling with anorexia for years, McCurdy later began binge eating and suffering from bulimia, which is typically the trend from anorexia, typically. And through therapy and other coping tools, she learned how to process these traumas and reckon with the truths behind her upbringing. She also explains that McCurdy didn't actually want to be an actor when she was younger, but her mom forced it on her. And I guess her mom would always kind of use the argument of, oh, you're so lucky that I'm letting you do this. I wish that my parents had done this when I was younger. And I'm like, I feel like there's the root of our issue right here. But yeah, so
it's because her mom wanted to be famous when she was a kid.
Yeah, but I think her mom passed away, I believe, in 2003. I believe
13.
So 13, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she died in 2013, and was it also cancer? Did it say or no? Or did you see?
Whatever, Jeanette McCurdy book.
Yes, cancer in 2013.
Okay.
Yep. Passed away from cancer in 2013. So
she's 30.
Yeah, so a lot of people have looked at this, and it's the same for all issues. You obviously have, you have at least two different sides. So you obviously have people supporting this book, but you also have a lot of people that are denouncing this book as well. To which,
her family isn't even doing it.
Yeah,
her family isn't denouncing it. She's like, yeah, I got the support from my brothers.
Yeah. And
my three brothers are okay with it.
Yeah, but it's wild to see so many people that are denouncing that, oh, you shouldn't what if your mom was still alive today? And McCurdy's response is, I wouldn't have put the book out. I wouldn't have done it. That's the
I would have waited until she died again.
Yeah, that's the reason where she did it, because she's dead. But it's wild to see so many people that are so against kind of this stuff. It's you're defacing your mother's memory. I'm like, I feel like if you're in that close to a horrible person like that, or close to horrible acts like that, you should say something, because it goes back
when
it just goes back
10 years old.
Yeah, exactly. It's
you can't, and then when you're finally
no power, then
you're gonna take what you can at the time. It's like a lot of the people who, during the Me Too movement and stuff like that, are of why didn't you say something earlier? And it's you didn't feel like you could.
Exactly.
It was almost impossible.
Yeah.
But now
even today, sometimes people still feel like they can't, because you have so many people, creating fake news or fake stories. I actually just saw a video last night from Ludwig, who is a very popular streamer on YouTube. He has a secondary channel called Mogul Mail, to which he occasionally just covers just small little news stories. But I just saw a video last night of him talking about, apparently there was a very popular Overwatch 2 streamer who was falsely accused of grooming a child. And I guess the way the story goes is that this streamer by the name of, I believe it's SVB. He was, I guess, a bunch of texts and DMs and conversations got leaked of him grooming a child, and a couple of days later, allegedly grooming a child. And so a lot of people were grabbing their pitchforks, trying to about to take this dude down. In which a few days later, the person who posted all this stuff, there was a fake account that posted all this stuff claiming to be the victim. Then a couple days later, another person came out and be like, hey guys, just saying, just wanted to let you know that account's fake and it's me. that this was all fake because I just wanted to prove a point of how easy it is to fake these stories. And like, I heard that I was left
great way.
Yeah, I was left
that.
speechless. I was left completely speechless.
You could do that and not try and ruin someone's life.
Ludwig also talks about this in his video, to which again it's linked down below. It's linked in the Discord. But he gave the comparison of like, that's like breaking into someone's home and then being like, see, this is how easy it is to break into someone's home. And it's like, motherfucker, you're still doing the crime.
And it completely dilutes the message because then people are not going to take other people seriously.
Exactly.
Which with stuff like that it is incredibly important for everybody to be able to come out and really be heard and like respected and taken seriously with real accusations like that. Like and it seems like overall we're doing a much better job of being able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not that we in the distant past, I would say, like 10 years ago, that was not as much of a thing.
Oh no. Absolutely not.
And we've gotten better, and every year I would like to think that we're getting better, but especially because of the Me Too movement, we're taking people seriously, and it is important.
I think
but
in our
like
lifetime, I think in our lifetime we have definitely gotten better at not even just coming forward about, you know, allegations like this, but just coming forward and talking about issues in general, like you know, coming out as gay, coming out as being sexually assaulted, coming out as being discriminated, you know, all like, I think as a society, it's nice to see that. I think we are getting better at that. Obviously, we're not perfect. But we're definitely getting better. I remember I knew a guy in high school. His family, I believe, was from Jordan. And so his family was very, very religious. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm actually gonna look this up. The
religion, predominantly in Jordan.
Yeah, the religion probably in Jordan, I believe, is Islamic. I want to say. I'm looking at. Yeah, it's predominantly Islamic.
Okay.
To which I believe his family was also Islamic. Very heavily religious. But I remember him talking to us, and he's like, yeah, like stuff about, you know, if you're I keep wanting to say homophobic, but that's not correct.
If you are homosexual.
Homosexual, thank you. I was like, what's the other way to say this? Yeah, if you're a homosexual.
The opposite.
Yeah, but so my friends, he was telling us that his dad was talking to them, and the dad's like, yeah, if you're Islamic and you live in Jordan and you're homosexual, you keep that shit to yourself. You tell literally nobody, because that shit can get you killed. 100%.
Yeah.
And it was like,
by people that know you.
Yeah, and it was wild to just hear that, of him just being that kind of like, yeah, you say you marry a woman, you fucking deal with it. And it's like, Jesus ridiculous. Christ alive.
It's nice that, you know, millennials, people our age, and Gen Z,
yes,
Gen Z is the one below us, are much more in tune.
Yeah.
In general,
I think,
it's not a blanket statement, but are much more in tune with like their feelings and those around them. Like, granted, Gen Z and millennials can be like little pieces of shit.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we're menaces.
Like, they know how to get at you, but I think that's
small children
that
in
reinforces.
General. Like, John Mulaney makes a joke of that, of like, you never want to interact with children, at least like middle school or younger, because they will find the most insecure part of you and they will just dig into it. Absolutely.
Did you ever see that one? I don't know if it was on Vine or if it was TikTok, but it was that guy who was he did a video where he was pretending to be like a housewife or something. And he was like vacuuming, and he's like, Jimmy and Jelly, Jimmy and Jenny, you need to go clean up your rooms. Like, if like right now we have company coming over. Fucking everybody throw out all the chairs. We can't let people know we sit.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. That was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely butchering the bit. Like, Anybody go watch it. It's fucking hilarious. But
yeah.
apparently this guy does stand up, and Emily just showed me one of his videos, and he was talking about how certain people in a certain political party like razzing him, or not razzing him, attacking him on Twitter or something, and he's just like, oh yeah, well now like this is what gets me going in the morning, you know, now I can go shopping, you know, now I can go take a shower because I just finally got attacked by this specific group. And he's like, yeah, but if a Gen Z comes at me and it's just like, you look like a burnt candle, he's just like, all right, I'm done. This is oh my god, I want to die now.
I found the video. I posted it. I found the video. I found it. But yeah.
I need to watch this again really quick. Company is coming.
We can't let them know we sit.
Can't let people know we sit.
But yeah.
If your beds aren't made in the next 3 minutes, throw it out. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I totally agree with the fact that I think our generation and the generation below us definitely are. We are more in tune with, or at the very least, I think we're more self-aware and we're willing to talk
about other
about
people.
It. Yeah, more conscious of.
Yeah, there's a lot of older generations that are like, oh no, we're all about helping each other, and it's like, all right, then, I don't know, pay for other things.
Speaking of, okay, quick tangent about that actually. A thought, I have this thought every time. So it's August 17th as we film this. I think back to school is, I think most schools are in session at the very least. They're very close to being in session.
Not here.
I know that I think my school in my town starts on the 25th. I think, which is very late for in general. But I think
ours always started in September.
Really? Your school starts at what? When do you guys get out?
June. Like middle of June.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Okay. That checks out. Cause yeah, we start. I think typically we started like mid to late August, and then we got out in like May, pretty much. May, like late April, early to mid May, typically. But anyways.
Yeah.
But so back to school. It's happening. People are getting ready for it. But I just saw another story talking about Mr. Beast. And he just did.
I don't know how to feel about Mr. Beast.
Say what you will about Mr. Beast. I will admit, Mr. Beast does a lot of good
he does do.
Stuff.
I love his
he does a lot
Plant the Trees initiative or whatever it was called.
He does a lot of stuff. But I guess he just released a video where he just donated a bunch of school supplies to like a local school and stuff like that, and
Team Trees, that's what it is.
Yeah, and like he's been his latest cause is raising money for schools. But so he has he equipped a bunch of teamed up with Sunmaid to equip students and teachers in poor districts with brand new school supplies. Donaldson traveled across the country to visit 4 underfunded schools. At each stop, he met a few of his young fans, dropped off some supplies, and surprised beloved teachers and school employees with gifts. He even brought in tech YouTuber William Osmond to endorse the materials he delivered to a science classroom. Ultimately, the impoverished schools ended up with about $200,000 worth of items, courtesy of Donaldson and his sponsor. So he helped fund a bunch of schools for school supplies. But even then, I read another story that apparently a lot of state and school districts have implemented universal free lunches and other innovative solutions to mitigate the end of the federal federal food program. So I guess there was a federal food program that gave free lunches to schools for underfunded schools and stuff like that. But I guess that program is ending, so there are a lot of families and a lot of kids that don't get to eat for lunch.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me try to look at more of this story. In Prince George's County, Maryland, home to one of the largest school districts in the U.S., officials say the cost of food and supplies for their schools has increased between 12 to 20% on average in just the last 2 years. The district is also around 200 employees short, meaning they will have to buy more prepackaged food, further driving up the costs. According to Time, in some districts, the cost of lunch may be close to $5 a day. That comes out to $900 over the course of a school year and is nearly twice as much as it cost just a few years ago in 2017. But with rising food prices, many schools have no choice but to pass those expenses off to parents who may already be struggling to make ends meet, raising further concerns about nutrition, especially for low-income districts. But yeah, like, it's wild to think that, listening to the story, I had this thought, which I have every once in a while, of, for a society that stresses education so much, like you have to do good in school, you have to go to college, so you can get a good job. For a society that stresses school so much, we don't do all that much to back it up.
No.
Like, we say it matters, but our actions do not show that it actually matters.
Well, it's because they, like, this gets so deep into the weeds.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the biggest issue is that they keep trying to, like, defund public schools.
Mm-hmm.
They just try and rip them out at the roots because they don't want younger people educated.
Yeah.
Overall, because educated people tend not to...
Educated people can make their own decisions.
Educated people can make their own decisions, and it allows them opportunities to get outside of the poverty zone. That doesn't necessarily mean that will happen. It just affords them more opportunities.
Yeah.
And taking away things that would help impoverished people just fully...
That's not allowed.
brings that home. And which, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's really bad, obviously. I remember, like, when I was in middle school, we got hot lunches. And first of all, I don't know how many people even have had hot lunches anymore from school.
Yeah.
Like, they were trash when I was a kid. I can only imagine with all of the cuts that come to all these places.
Dude, my lunches were awesome.
Were terrible. Frustratingly, for the schools that I went to, the year before I entered middle school, they had, like, Pizza Hut and, like, a pasta plate. Like, they had, like, basically companies come in, and I don't know if they were, like, sponsoring the school or like what happened, but, like, they had food from these restaurants that would come in and they would have it prepared for the kids. Same thing with my high school. The year before I entered high school, that was the thing. And I was like, this sucks. Like, man, now I have to eat shitty, regular, like, frozen pizza. And now I can't imagine what kids are having to deal with. I know for a fact it's not good quality food, for one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just getting dropped, or it just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's
which
the
is
unfortunate
ridiculous.
it's the unfortunate thing of, because costs go up, schools can't afford that, so they have to cut corners. How do you cut corners? You buy cheaper food. Typically, cheaper food is not healthier for you, unfortunately.
Or they just cut it out in general, and it's like you're forcing these kids to go to school. For one, if the kids don't go to school, their parents can get in actual legal trouble, which would generally spell for making that child's life harder.
Yep.
In their parents can get arrested, or they have to pay a large fine, which makes it even harder.
Yeah. And if they can't afford school, and like at first, it's just a downhill spiral of that.
Yeah, I mean,
as well as like school, like just I think having families having to tack on that extra $900 for the school year for lunch. That's not even considering just buying school supplies in general overall too. Like, you have, like,
right.
It's just like, it's such an unfortunate...
Teachers have to buy their own fucking school supplies? That's ridiculous.
It's such an unfortunate thing. To which, in a slightly lighter tangent, I read this and said, like, the cost of lunch close to $5 a day. And I read this and I'm like, my lunch definitely did not cost $5 a day. It costed, like, at least $9. I think the most I ever paid for lunch was, like, $15. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, that's because I ate literally like it was my last meal on Earth every day.
So, did you have like off-campus lunch or something?
No.
Or you just talking about?
It was like we had lunch.
Daily.
We had like our regular lunch, our school lunch, but then we had like a la carte stuff. So like, you could buy like cookies or like extra fries or all this stuff. Yeah, and it all was like extra money, and I ate like it was my last meal. Like I ate the equivalent. I think I ate so much food during lunch on a day-to-day basis that the lunch ladies knew who I was. They knew who I was, and they would look at me and they would be like, "So how much do you want today?" And how many cookies do you want? Right, but it wasn't like a how many do you want, fatty? It was like, how many do you want? Because I weighed 135 pounds and it looked like I was starving every day that I hadn't eaten. And so they're just like, they just looked at me like I was an enigma. And I'm like, how do you pack all of this in a fucking 5'7" body? And I'm like,
that's me, dude.
Who knows, dude? Who knows?
I weigh 130 pounds. I'm like 5'8", almost 5'9".
Did you weigh 130?
Mm-hmm.
Christ.
Yeah.
Fuck. I weigh 180. I weigh 180.
I've never weighed more than 136 in my life.
Oh, I'm fat. I'm so
You're not fat.
No, I'm fat.
You're an inch shorter than me.
Shut up, I'm fat. Shut up.
You're not fat.
Fuck you. I'm fat.
Let's see. So you're 5'7"?
5'7".
180?
180. That counts as overweight.
Okay, you're a little bit overweight.
Yeah, that's not a little bit. I'm overweight.
Technically,
what do you mean?
Technically, you're actually bordering on obese. But you don't look like that at all.
Weight.
Well,
that's because it's from the that's because you only see me from the chest up.
Well, I mean, fair, but like, BMI is not a good indicator of weight and health at all. It's just like an easy metric to be like, hey, you fit.
Yeah.
These two numbers, you fit into this category that we've arbitrarily basically given you. Because BMI does not count muscle content.
No.
At all. Which is very important.
Which I know for a fact that when I was in college, I definitely had muscle. Because I know I don't think I weighed more than 160 in college. And that was I think, pure, like, I would say pure leg muscle, because I walked everywhere on campus. Even off campus, I walked onto campus, and I just walked everywhere to all of my classes. And I did marching band, which is a very walking intensive. So, like, a good portion of my weight, without that muscle mass, I probably would weigh 130. But it was just that extra leg muscle and just thigh muscles and just general muscle content is that extra 30 pounds. At least that's the copium that I'm going to be huffing. That's where I'm at. Because
I definitely wouldn't consider you to be fat.
Dude,
at all.
I don't know. Look, you don't have to see me. You don't have to see me when I take a shower and stuff like that. So that is the difference. You also don't have to see me when I sit down on the toilet. So there is that too.
So if you get a second, I'm gonna invite you to.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Emily.
Okay. Maxwell says hi.
Hello.
Hi.
You're on his stream.
Okay. I can see that.
Hi.
What's up?
I'm just saying. I didn't get an answer back.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to talk to you about
He muted himself. That's sad. That's unfortunate. I'm offended. I know he could hear me. I know for a fact he could hear me. Anyways.
She said hi.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I felt like I could be included in the conversation, and then you muted me out, and I'm just upset by it.
I didn't mute you out. I muted myself out.
You still excluded me from the conversation. I'm a little insulted. It's fine.
We're just doing like some feng shui ideas for the room. Not this room.
Drill another hole. Drill another hole that leads outside.
No, I'm not drilling any more fucking holes.
Just
It's more functional than feng shui.
Just drill a scap into your wall and then push half your bed outside.
Did you wave
That's
at
all you
that
gotta do.
screen?
I mean,
That's the camera.
she sees me
Okay.
on that screen. I get it. It's fine.
Oh.
I get it. I understand.
Fair enough. Whatever.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm just glad she said hi back to me this time. Typically, she comes
He
in.
always says hi
No,
back to
no,
you.
she doesn't. No, she doesn't.
hear
I
it.
will.
Yeah, you just can't
I'll
hear it.
say. Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Or I mute it.
She'll
so-
yeah, she'll come in. I'll hear. I'll say hi, and then you tell her that I say hi, and then I don't hear anything back, and I'm like, all right, that's fine, I guess. That's cool.
So
That's cool.
I'm just doing a poor job as a messenger. Okay, it's
Yeah.
my fault.
All right, that's fine.
I'll take responsibility
All right,
for
that's
that.
fair. That's fair. That's fair enough.
Bitching with people on Discord. So I was thinking like the box storage things. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's like
Pull-out door bits?
like a pull-out bin thing.
Oh yeah. The ones like at Target, the like my bookshelves are, but you can Okay. Okay. Love
Dude,
you.
So actually,
Bye,
speaking
Maxwell.
of bye,
You can leave that open.
tell her I said bye.
He
What the
said
fuck?
bye. Oh my
What
god.
the actual fuck? What the hell, dude? I saw her wait too. She waited for you.
She waved.
No. She said bye. I said bye back, and I watched her wait until I said bye, and then you never said it. Fuck you.
Maxwell says bye.
God damn it. I can't
Oh,
believe
whatever.
this.
You're welcome.
Anyways, speaking of feng shui stuff, so my house is so close. Like, my family, we're hoarders. That's not like me being funny. That's like an actual fact. We hoard the shit out of everything. We're not to the extreme point where we have to be on TLC. Is that the channel that's on?
Yeah, I think so.
We're not to that point yet, but we're ever so slowly we get closer to it. I look around my setup right now, and it's bad. But
It's
that
A&E. Anyway.
yeah, A&E. Okay, but that being said, though, my mom has been like slowly but surely. We slowly and surely are like moving things and like altering stuff to clean our house up, which is like I feel like a decade too late, but at least we're getting there now. But it's like it's so awkward too because she'll like she just bought like a new dish rack, and the plan is it's like a dish rack, but it like hangs on the wall, so it has like shelves too that we can put up on stuff on there too, which is
That's what
awesome.
ours is like.
Yeah, and so like we just bought that, and then we just organized like a bunch of like different like containers and like cupboards in our kitchen, and my mom, she was showing me all this stuff that she did, and she was like so proud. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, this is so cool. When do you think we can get to the cups all the cups in the cupboard, and like because our cupboard's full of cups and like glasses, but we have more that can't fit, so they just like overflow onto the counter. And I'm like, so when are we gonna do that? And she
Sure,
looked at me and
3
she goes, eventually, someday, maybe in like 20 years. And I'm like, you know what? That's good enough. We'll get there.
So, is it 2 people that live at your house?
No,
Or is it 3? Do you count?
It's okay. So I would say that it's 1.5. So like I live.
Because
here.
your mom is the one who comes.
Yeah,
in and out.
I live here permanently, but then my mom comes in and out occasionally, and so it's like 1.5. To which I've now.
And then Nicole
and then
comes
Nicole,
in.
yeah, and then Nicole comes
every couple weeks.
every once in a while, just because. So yeah, it's like I'm always slightly embarrassed when I talk about my living situation because I live at home. I live back in my parents' house, essentially still. Technically speaking, I live in my parents' house. I still live in the same town I grew up in, which is a small, predominantly white town. And I think if you were to hear that sentence probably 10-15 years ago, that idea would not be smiled upon as much, or you would like you get an idea of like, oh, this person's a shut-in, and is like you get
But
like
that
the
10 years
stereotypical
ago-
idea of in your head. But I think nowadays it's like I say that to people.
That's normal.
Yeah, it's like it's one
Especially
normal.
for people our age.
Yeah, it's more normal. But then at the same time, like people ask me all the time, are like, oh, well, like, are you gonna plan? When are you planning on moving, getting a place of your own? And I'm like
fuck that.
I kind of already do.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I kind of already do, and I also don't have to pay rent. Like, a buddy of mine actually, he moved I think a couple months ago, and he got a new place. And before he moved though, he asked, he's like, hey, do you like want to move in with me and be my roommate? Like I know that you still live at home and stuff like that. Like, if you want, just let me know. And I was like, yeah, I appreciate the offer, but I think I'm fine here. Also, financially, I'm not in a place to afford my own, to be
Right.
able to pay my rent. But I was like talking to my mom about this. I'm like, yeah, like so and so wanted me to move in with them and stuff like that. I told him that I was flattered, but like I couldn't just financially. And she's like, yeah, but you also don't pay rent already, so like, why would you want to? Like,
Right.
And I'm like, that's a fair point, actually. That's a fair and accurate point. Why would
I don't think there like you said you feel embarrassed every once in a while. I wouldn't, like, legitimately, if it were not as inconvenient for me to get to, I would probably go live with my dad again.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a bigger house. He has offered me the room several times, like rent free, and it would just give me an opportunity to save up money. Because I want to buy a house. I want to stop renting, and I'm lucky enough to be able to rent the house that I am. But I've ever told you how much my rent is here?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
1,000.
It's No, it's $18.35.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
It's great. It's divided by 2 people.
Right. That's per
but
month,
that's,
right?
It's per month.
Jesus.
That's a lot of money.
Jesus.
On top of
That's
our
not even,
utility
Yeah, it's
bills
like that's not even including
and-
utilities.
My car insurance
Yeah,
payment
like,
and my car
fuck,
payment
man.
and like there's so like actually my grandpa just sent me a text yesterday. He's like, hey, bus drivers are hiring for $18 an hour, and I was like, yeah, I make more than that, Grandpa. I was like, my actual wage is lower than that, but counted with tips on average,
Right. Yeah.
I make almost $25 an hour.
Speaking of tips, okay.
And I can barely afford to live where I am.
Speaking of tips, this is actually, I'm glad you brought that up because this actually reminded me. So, you work in food, in the food industry. You go off, with your wages and tips. Would you say, what's the percentage between your wage and your tips? Like, what your entire salary? I'll say, how much? Like, what's the percentage between those? How much is your wage? And how much is your tips?
Like, how much do I actually make an hour versus how much do I roughly get an hour in tips?
No. What's
Or like my monthly?
Let's say.
Because I don't know my I don't know my
Whatever's easier.
I almost said GDP.
Whatever's easier. Whatever's easier.
So I get about I'm almost hitting $3,000 a month, and my tips make up over a third of that.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
You said over a third. Okay.
I get about 1,200, about 1,200, if not more, in tips a month.
Wow. Okay. So that being said, when you go to restaurants, do you tip?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I tip well.
How much? Okay. That was my next question. How much do you tip?
Generally, baseline 20, sometimes 15 if I don't have a ton of cash on me, because I also only like to tip in cash.
Oh, really? Interesting. How come? This is just out of curiosity, actually. I hate tipping in cash.
So first of all, the cash goes directly to the person.
Okay.
Like sometimes like businesses will do a pool and then they'll divvy it out.
Yeah.
But credit tips there's always a percentage taken by, I don't know if it's there's percentages taken. Like if you go to a bar, any bartender would prefer that you tip them in cash because of it's either of how the business works or how the card company deals with it or how
There's always
the IRS deals with it.
There's always like strings attached to credit.
Do credit tips.
Okay.
So if you are thinking of going and tipping somewhere, it's generally nicer and easier, and the because the intent with giving a tip is to generally thank your server,
Yeah.
or your cook or whatever. It shouldn't be that you're just trying to give them money to afford for them to live, because that should be our wages, but that's a whole other thing. So in terms of gratitude, it's better to give cash.
Okay,
I'm not saying you should have to, but first of all, please do it. People in that are in the food service industry have to deal with so much more shit than anybody realizes. You see Karens and you think that is like a few and far between, and since first of all it's not, and there's so many other things.
It's a little embarrassing to admit this, but my mom she's not a Karen, but she has Karen-like tendencies sometimes. Like, my mom is the kind of person that will walk into a restaurant, 30 minutes before they close. And, it's bad. It's, she'll, there have been times where, my mom's like, so where should we go to dinner? And I'm like, well, what's open? She's like, oh, well, this place is open. Let's go, how about this place? I'm like, well, that place closes in 30 minutes. She's like, well, that's fine. We can go. I go, no, we can't. No, we can't. There's no way we can go now. There's no. She's like, it'll be fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine. I can tell you right now, it's super not fine.
I guarantee you, if you were to call my restaurant, and so it takes us 20 to 30 minutes to even make your food, on average.
Yeah.
If you were to call 30 minutes beforehand, we would take the order. But holy shit, we're gonna be bitching about you the whole fucking time. We're gonna make your food, and it's gonna be good, and we're gonna get you in and out of there real fast. And I don't want to throw my business under the bus or anything, but I guarantee you, any place that will do that for you, it's their job. Yeah. We're here to work. And I hope that any business would do that for you, but I also would hope that you would have the common courtesy to think about that ahead of time and be like, these people are, especially if it's closing later.
Yeah, if
people just want to get home.
If it's me, if I did that and I sit down, I get my food, blah blah blah, I'm tipping you probably at least 50%. Most definitely, awesome. I'm gonna make it worth their time because this is holy shit.
The difference between I've worked in there's the food industry and what's fucking
retail.
Retail. Thank you. That's I've worked in retail as well. I used to work at Target. Mm-hmm. Granted, I was not on I wasn't a cashier. I wasn't on the sales floor or anything. I came in early and I did freight stuff.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I had to stay, and they were kind of training me on sales and stuff.
Yeah.
To just help out with guests and whatnot. But the restaurant work doesn't work like a 9 to 5. It doesn't work like an office job, and it doesn't work like retail.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're closing, you have to be there later than just when you close.
Just because the place closes at 9 doesn't mean everyone goes home at 9.
No, you're probably going home at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Even later sometimes.
Yeah.
So yes, we close at 9, but you calling in 20 minutes ahead of time means I'm not getting out until 9:15.
Right. Yeah.
Depending on the size of your party, depending on the size of your order,
right,
because we gotta have people clean that shit. We gotta watch people do all that stuff. We have to count out our tills. We have to lock up. There's always at least somebody there an hour later. So for that reason, like anybody who goes into a business later at night, like think about that, like, and maybe like you said, just at least tip them better because that'll just make the experience
it makes the
better.
experience better.
You'll feel so much less shitty.
Yeah.
We have groups come in, or people who make pre-orders. Like I actually have a pre-order tomorrow for 30 pies.
Pizza pies.
Pizzas, yes. 30 extra large pies due out before we even open.
Jesus.
I've done that so many
Christ.
times. It's regular.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's annoying. And the amount of people that don't tip on an order like that, because I guarantee, so they're just pepperoni pies and cheese pies.
Yeah,
So
real-
there's
real
17
basic.
pepperonis and 13 cheeses. That's about, oh god, I'm just gonna say on average those are 30 apiece.
Okay.
So that's $900 worth of product
Ooh.
and $900 basically worth of my time that I'm having to do before I even actually
Before you even start work, your shift, technically.
Yeah, my normal shift. I'm gonna have to come in an hour early just to get this done.
Yeah.
And then I have to get my normal shit done.
Yeah.
And then we open at 11.
Oh.
So I'm getting there at 9.
Lord
we don't actually
almighty.
open till 11. And the amount of people that don't tip on orders like that is actually kind of ridiculous.
Okay.
Like
so-
giant parties
Yeah.
or huge orders.
Right, yeah.
And people are just like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool.
So when you so when you tip, do you tip for takeout? Or like delivery? Or okay, delivery is different. Takeout. Let's say takeout.
Delivery is hard. Okay. Takeout.
So you are going there to pick up the food yourself. You've called in
Well-
and you're picking it up yourself.
Yeah, because that's kind of how my business mostly works.
Mhm.
Like we do have Indine, but like a majority of our business is to go only.
Okay.
Or not to go only. We used to be during 2020 to 2021, we were only to go only. Like that's all we did.
Pandemic hours.
Yeah. And we never closed down. We never had to deal with that stuff. So yes, absolutely, I do tip at takeout, because I wouldn't do something. I wouldn't not do something I expected somebody else to do.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
like I don't expect a tip. I really don't. It's just something as a way of somebody saying
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a courtesy thank you.
Monetarily.
Yeah, it should just be like a thank you of like, hey,
But I
appreciate what
I
you did.
understand people who cannot tip.
Yeah.
And if you are just like gracious, then often that can be thanks enough. Like sometimes you can just tell when somebody's just having a rough day,
Yeah.
or like somebody forgets it, or you know they just can't do that, and that's fine. But like if you're coming in and you're spending several $100s worth of food, and like taking up all of this space, you should come in with the mindset of we're causing we're creating more work than normal.
Yeah, you
for
should
these
have
people.
the courtesy of the mindset to have that sort of courtesy.
Yeah, that should be forefront in your mind. Like you're like, all right, I'm spending this amount of money. Well, I'm actually spending an extra 15%,
Yeah.
or something,
Okay.
or an extra 10%, or whatever.
So
like,
so as far as tipping goes for you, are there any factors that change the way that you tip? So like getting like service, that kind of stuff.
yeah. So, I am a generally patient person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also the kind of person who like really doesn't care if you mess up my order a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get like a burger, or if I order a burger and you give me like a taco, I'm gonna be like,
That's not right.
what the fuck? Yeah, I'll probably say
It's
something.
gonna
But
take
if like you forgot,
a real big error for you it to be like, all right.
I'm not allergic to anything, so that's not generally something I worry about. Or like if you forget my pickles on a burger, I'm not gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
But if like I go and get a burger and it's just completely dry, there's like nothing on it, I'll be like, no. If it's a little overdone, I won't care. If it's a little rarer than normal, I probably won't care. But if it's just completely fucked up, then I'll say something.
Mm-hmm.
But
have you ever
if
sent
it takes
food back before?
I think so, but it really wasn't like with malicious intent. Like it was like something was fucked up.
Okay.
But
I don't think I have. I want to say that maybe I've done once, but it was also like if I ate this, I would actually get sick. So like,
yeah,
this is a problem.
I think that happened with like a chicken dish before. Yeah. I was just like, there was pink in it, and I'm like,
yeah, I was like,
I'm not touching that. I'm not fucking touching that.
Absolutely,
you know. And
you don't fuck with that with chicken.
No. And I love chicken.
Yeah,
like
you absolutely mess with that.
I was like, there was also a time I think that happened with fish, which fish is different, but I think it was like, it's supposed to be cooked a certain way, and it was not at all.
Yeah, right.
It was like basically eating like a slab of raw, like halibut or something, and I was like, that's not what I'm going for.
That might be okay, maybe.
It might be okay, but it's not what you're expecting.
Yeah.
You're like, I was expecting this to be cooked, and it's not.
You know? You can eat raw fish. You cannot eat raw chicken.
Yeah. So yeah, I have sent things back before, but it was only because there was like an egregious error.
Right.
But like as well, like in terms of time, like for me there is like I always have a set like 20 to 15% depending on how much extra money I have at the time.
Yeah.
If I don't have a ton, I'm going for that 15 if I can. But otherwise, it's generally set at 20%, and you have to fuck up real bad.
Right.
Like, you have to really piss me off. You have to be rude. You have to take, like, an hour for me to get my food.
Yeah.
You have to really mess up on it. And like, generally, it has to be, like, a combination of all of these things for me to, like, even be... I won't leave anywhere, even
then,
if I'm pissed and not leave.
Shave up $1, even then.
Yeah, I'll still probably leave you, like, $5.
Okay.
You know?
Right. Okay.
I mean, the shitty thing is at places like drive-throughs,
Yeah.
I really don't tip, and I don't like tipping, which is weird.
That's why I'm asking, because for me personally in my life, I will every time I sit down at a restaurant, I will always tip. I don't typically carry cash on me, so I will always, I'll pay with my card and I'll always write in a tip there. I usually try to do 20% typically. I don't normally calculate it out, so I kind of just like my whole process is I look at my total, I divide that by half, so that's 50%. Divide that by half again, that's 25%, and then I take like a couple dollars off. That usually gets me there. That's like 18-20% typically.
So are you trying to get to 15%, or are you trying to get to... Because there's a way easier way to get...
I know there's a way easier way to get to 20. I know there's a way easier way. That's just how I've always...
10%?
I know. That's just how I've always done it.
Okay.
That's just how I've always done it.
Your way is so much more confusing.
It is. It absolutely is. I know there's an easier way. That's just how I've done it. That's just the way it is.
Fair enough.
And it's just how I've always done it.
I mean, in all honesty, the chances are you're actually tipping them more than 20%.
Yeah.
Using that
the
method.
range I tip is no less than 15, the way I do it. No less than 15. And even that's just because I've done the math wrong. I think the most...
I only wanted to give them 10, damn it.
Yeah. Well, no, because like, I wanted to give them 20. Yeah, it's like, but I'll like... I remember there was one time I did it, and I fucked up the math, so I gave him like 15% tip. And I felt really bad, because I always try to do at least 20. I think the most I've ever paid, I think I paid 25% in tip. I think. And again...
That's the most you've ever paid?
Yeah, and again, because I fucked the math up. Again, I fucked the math up. To which, again, was just... Because my average is 20. I usually just try to do 20. It's typically 18 to 20% is what I do. And again, that's just because I'm bad at math. But when I sit down at a restaurant, I will always tip. Whether it's card or cash, I will always leave something. For takeout, I don't typically tip because I treat it the same way as going through a drive-through. Of you don't typically tip the drive-through employee at the window, and for me that's kind of my justification of I'm coming to pick the food up, so, and I'm not eating there, I'm just taking my food and I'm going. If it's delivery I will always also tip, because you're not only making my food, but you're now having to bring it to me. I'm not doing anything to, I'm not doing any work to get my food. You're doing all the work. But for takeout, because I'm doing some of the work of going to get the food, picking it up and leaving, that is my justification of not tipping for takeout.
That you wouldn't. But you would likely not tip at the restaurant that I work at.
Yeah, probably for takeout. No, if I sat down, I would. But if I'm getting pizza, I'm typically not picking it up if I'm getting pizza. If I'm like, and I say,
never sit down. At
I say takeout. It's for like, even if I went in to, like, for to go, I probably also wouldn't tip. Because again, I treat it as like going through a drive-through. As far as and the reason I'm talking about this is because my sister Nicole, she works at a bakery, a very good bakery. It's a bakery ramen shop. It's very, very good. But we got into this whole argument of tipping because I've never worked in food industry, so I don't know kind of the stuff that you guys go through. And I don't know all that prep work. That's not my thing. I'm on the other side of the fence. That being said, so for me, in a sit down scenario, I'm the same way. You have to really, really fuck up my stuff for me to not tip. And even then I would probably leave you at least a couple dollars at the bare minimum. Unless the service is like super slow, super awful. My order is completely fucked. There are 0.5% of the time I probably won't tip. And again, that's like, you really, really have to try. You're essentially kicking me out of the restaurant
really have to
if you don't want me to tip. You essentially have to kick me out of the restaurant. But for me, at least for takeout goes, I used to tip for takeout. I used to. I don't anymore, and it's because of the fact that I'll say like recently, at least in the past, like at least this year and like a little bit in last year, all the times that I got takeout, something has been wrong with my order. Like either I didn't get something I ordered, something, or like I asked for something specific that didn't get fulfilled, or I asked for like a specific, like I asked for like specific requests and stuff like that didn't get filled. Like I would say like real rough estimate, out of my last 20 meals that I got from takeout, I would say probably 85% of them were wrong in just some way, just in general.
Sucks.
In generally wrong. So and so from just on that experience though, I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna tip you, and I'm sorry for that, but at the same time, stop fucking up my order. and it's coincidentally, every time that I have tipped, my order is wrong. Every time I have not tipped, my order is correct. And that's pure coincidence.
How are you placing these takeout orders? Are you calling them in over the phone?
It's a mismatch. It depends on where I'm getting the food from. So like, there's like a local Applebee's in my town. I'll go online for that.
Like through an app,
just on their website. On their website, I'll typically choose the location, order on the website, and then do it that way. They fucked up my order a bunch of times. They're the leading culprit in this.
Yeah. From what I've encountered with like corporate level restaurants, is that first of all, their staff is generally under-trained, at least in terms of being able to interpret what's coming in from their like online ordering.
Yeah.
Like just because it's simple for you does not
mean-
at
yeah.
all mean
Right,
that
yeah.
that is like the conveyance of the order is going to be accurate, which really sucks.
Yeah.
We actually used to have back when Amazon restaurants was a thing, and it wasn't even available in every state.
Never heard of them.
Yeah,
Never heard of
it
it.
doesn't exist anymore. It was a delivery service through Amazon that we partnered with, and Portland was one of a few cities that it existed in.
Interesting.
And we were partnered with them. So we had a little tablet that was set up, and people would just send an Amazon order through, and then people didn't understand how to use the app correctly, so they would be like, hey, can I get extra pepperoni on my pizza? And it's like, you have to pay for that. And because of the way the app is set up, we can't just add it to it later.
Oh.
And they can't just call us and be like, hey, I want to add this.
That's awkward.
Because once their order is placed, we can't change it and they can't change it. Amazon has to change it, and they're not going to take the time out of their day to do it. So it was just a whole fucking mess.
Jeez.
I can't say that is the case for every place, but like that is something to consider.
Yeah.
Is that just because it's simple for the user does not mean it's going to be simple for the person who's preparing your food.
Yeah.
Which is really shitty because like these businesses, especially corporate businesses, are doing everything they can to be like, all right, let's get some engagement from our customers. Let's do everything we can to get them in here. But it's like once you get them there, the shit's getting fucked up.
Yeah.
Because these people weren't trained to add all of these new things into it.
Yeah. But so for me, like they're one of the that's one of the reasons why I don't tip. But that's so I usually go on a website for corporate stuff. But then there are some local restaurants that I'll go. Like there's a really good Thai place, local place here that I'll get food from, and I'll usually call in for that. But again, I also just genuinely I don't tip because I'm picking up the order, but then also just because I've been burned so many times where I've tipped, and then my order is just wrong, and I'm just like, all right, cool. And my mom and I we have a joke of. Every time we order like takeout or something like that, I always ask, did you tip them? And she goes, I did. And I'm like, well, we'll see if that's justified or not. And like,
oh my god,
and sometimes, a lot of the time, a good portion of the time it is. Sometimes it's not. And I'm like, shouldn't have tipped them. And then like, and then sometimes
I can't blame you though.
Yeah. And then sometimes like my mom will be like, I didn't tip them. And I go, well, we'll see. And we'll open my order. I'm like, the order's wrong. I'm like, good. Glad we didn't tip them. Good riddance. Fuck them. And I'm like, it's just how it like I say this not because I'm trying to be a bad person. I'm saying this because of, again, I'm also of the mindset of a tip should be like a thank you of like, you know, I appreciate what you've done. It's a thank you, like a courtesy thing. But if you're gonna fuck up my shit and the stuff that I ordered, I'm not going to say thank you to you. And it is, but so my sister and I were debating about this, and we were going back and forth of like, you know, you should consider tipping more, even if they fuck up. And I'm like, while that might be true, because because a good portion, actually I didn't see a good portion. I would say, I would imagine almost all restaurant food people, workers, you know, a good chunk of their wages are reliant on tips, which I get, but at the same time, like, you kind of like in my eyes, as someone who doesn't work in food, you have to earn that. Like, I'm not just gonna tip you because you, I'm not gonna tip someone because they feel entitled to it. I'm going to tip them because I feel like they deserve to get that extra money, that they earned it. And just in my experiences, and this is primarily for takeout orders. In my experiences, I don't get that service. It actually was really funny because I think this was 2 weeks ago or something like that. Nicole and I, we went to a local Chinese place in our hometown. That we've gone to that place for literally since we were children. Like I won't even say we knew the owners because we didn't. But they were like one of the only other Asian families that lived here. So like they sort of knew us, or at least they knew our mom, who knows Chinese, and that was very exciting for them. So they would always give us like free drinks and like free little like sugar covered like donuts or donut holes basically. That's basically what they were. These free pastries, and we would always get free stuff from them all the time. We never expected them to do it, but they would always ask. Like I remember there was one time we ordered on the phone. I went to go pick up the order, and I grabbed the food and I went to walk away, and she goes, wait, come back. And I thought I forgot something, and I go, oh, sorry, did I forget something? She goes, oh no, what drink do you want? I'm like, I didn't order a drink. She goes, that's not what I asked. And I'm like, Pepsi's fine, I guess. And she's like, okay, here you go. She gave me a free can of Pepsi because that's just what she did.
Nice.
Because she knew me and she knew my family. But so we went there a couple weeks ago, and I guess the previous owners, the ones that my family knew, they sold the restaurant to another family. And we were talking to the owner because the owner took our order, and he was like, oh yeah, like I knew those people. They taught me everything I know. So. You guys said that you guys have been coming here for years. I hope I live up to, what you guys remember. And I hope the food tastes just the same, if not better. And I go, oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. We got our food. We went home. We looked at our order, and I go, he fucked up one of our dishes.
First time.
It's like the first time he fucked up one of our dishes. Because one of the dishes we ordered was chicken and broccoli in white sauce. Typically you can get it. It typically comes in a brown sauce, but you can get it in a white sauce instead. And so we ordered it in white sauce, and we found it was what made it funnier was the fact that not only he fucked up, but when he took our order, he confirmed it with us. He's like, he's like, chicken and broccoli and white sauce. He goes, white sauce? And I go, yes, that's correct. He goes, got it, white sauce. And then he made it in brown sauce, and we're like, okay, guy, like that's awkward. And then I looked at Nicole and I go, this is why I don't tip people.
So
I'm sorry. This is how it is.
Are you aware of tip wage?
No.
Okay, so tip wage is a different form. It's a way for businesses to actually pay you under the minimum wage, under the assumption that the tips that you will accrue will balance out to count towards minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Not all states do this. It actually goes by a state-by-state basis. Oregon doesn't do this. Alaska, California, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, and Washington. None of these places do it. Mm-hmm. At least of American states. Guam, the Commonwealth of North America, a lot of U.S. territories actually don't do this. But a bunch of other states do have a tip wage, and some of them are worse than others. Mm-hmm. So I looked up Ohio's. So your minimum wage is $9.30.
Yeah.
The tip wage, which is the minimum.
Oh, actually, I do know this because I got in an argument with my mom about this. Mm-hmm. Because I remember we were talking about politics as per. This is how the spark gets sparked. Mm-hmm. But I remember her arguing with her, and I was like, because my mom was like, I forget. I think there was like a piece of legislation that wanted to raise the minimum wage, or like it was I think the topic of like having a federal universal countrywide minimum wage, because mm-hmm. I think it's because the minimum wage is determined state by state. It's usually around what it should be. There
is a federal minimum.
There's a federal minimum, but it's like this state by state. It's like over
which
under,
is $7.25.
Yeah.
Federal minimum is $7.25.
Yeah. And I remember getting into an argument with her because people wanted to raise it to 15, I think. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom was like, but like...
Doesn't necessarily work on a state-by-state basis.
Yeah. she's like, well, like they're already getting paid $7. I go, that's not.
Oh.
And I remember my mom's like, they're already getting paid like $7. Like, isn't that? And I'm like, one, no, that's not enough money. Two,
No.
because states can get away with paying workers under the minimum wage, like Ohio does, they're not necessarily getting paid that. And she goes, that's not true. And I go, that's absolutely true, especially in food. That's 100% true, because they assume that you're gonna get tips, and that's their justification of doing it. And she goes, there's no way. And I go, it's absolutely the way it is, like 100%.
So,
I do remember this.
I'm on the Department of Labor, departmentoflabor.gov right now. This is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, the federal website.
Federal website. The Ohio minimum wage is $9.30.
Mm-hmm.
Your tip wage is $4.65. Meaning, if you meet a certain threshold of tips per day, your employer is allowed to pay you only $4.65.
Wow. Holy
which is
shit.
literally half
That's
of
half
your
the
minimum wage.
Whoa.
Do you know the threshold to hit that minimum
Of not
of
being,
tips?
Of tips?
Of tips required for them to do that.
I would assume it has to equal the minimum wage, right?
It is $30. A minimum. Sorry, you have to. Sorry, more than $30. You have to.
So
you have to make more than
you make
$30.
more than $30.
Then you
your
get
employer
paid
only-
$4.65.
Wow.
The problem is most businesses assume that you will reach that.
When you're not so like they're just people are just getting paid $4, and
$4.65.
In theory, they could only be getting like $5 in tips.
Yes. It is a thing. Like, granted, places can be audited, and that will not be a thing, but that is much more common than you would think.
Jesus.
So people are not even making the minimum wage, and let's say they make $35. They make $31 in tips for that day. They're still making half of the wages of somebody else for $31 extra.
Wow. Jesus.
They have a 10-hour shift. Because most people who work in food service have longer shifts than just like a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
9 to 5 or like 8 to 10 hour shifts.
Yeah.
Let's say you're working an 8 to 10 hour shift for half the pay, under the assumption that you are actually going to get tips enough to supersede the minimum wage. It's not going to happen.
There's no way.
It almost never happens.
Yeah.
And there's actually a list.
That's like gambling. That's essentially just like gambling.
Yeah.
Like
it's like a really shitty version of sales where you're like you may make minimum wage in your sales job, but you get a shitload from commission.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee that you will make that commission.
Make that commission. Yeah.
The thing about sales is, like, first of all, you are making a minimum wage because you are not getting tips.
Yeah.
Commission doesn't count for tips.
Yeah.
And generally, those commissions are significantly higher than any potential tips from, like, a restaurant job.
Yeah.
So, Ohio cuts your minimum wage in half because of the tip wage allowance.
Right. Jesus.
Alabama, Georgia, India, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, North Carolina, Puerto Rico, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wyoming, all have state minimum cash wage payments is the same as that is required under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act. Can you guess what the tip wage for all of those states are? It's all the same.
It's all the same
for the tip wage. Yeah.
So
it is
federal
egregiously low.
Federal minimum wage is $9.
Absolute.
Correct?
Federal minimum wage is $7.25.
$7.25. Okay. So
this is the absolute lowest that any state is allowed to pay you for tip wage.
I'm gonna say it's $3.50.
No.
Is it lower?
It is lower than that. It is lower than 350.
Man, I was really hoping you would say higher.
Oh.
Oh, that's so dark. Okay. Oh Christ. Is it 150?
No. It is
Please.
$2.13.
Oh, I was like, please tell me it's higher. Jeez.
It is $2.13. And some of these places, in Indiana, there is no specified amount required to hit for them to pay you that. Meaning, you don't have to make any sort of tips. They just always operate under the assumption that you are going to get tips, and they will just pay you that wage. Kansas, more than $20. Kentucky, more than $30. Nebraska, not specified. North Carolina, $20. Texas, $20. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow. I can't help but notice that a good majority of these states are red states. That's beside the point. Coincidentally,
that's beside the point.
That's beside the point. But wow.
It's also those that are living
insane.
in like heavily places that are reaching these like really high unemployment rates.
Yeah. Wow.
Because no one's gonna work for $2.13 an hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of places, like restaurants, can't keep people.
That was the argument that my mom had. That's what the argument my mom and I had. It was unemployment rates. Is that my mom argued that the unemployment rate is so high because people aren't motivated to work.
People aren't motivated to work for $2.13.
My argument was that's not necessarily true. People aren't motivated to work because they're not making money, and their wages aren't worth the amount of time that they are putting in. That is the real reason. And that was the argument that we had.
We're divided up into counties here.
Yep. Same.
The county that I live in, it's actually, so the Portland metro area actually has its own minimum wage. So there's the Oregon minimum wage, and then the Portland metro area has its own minimum wage. Our minimum wage annually goes up every year on June 1st.
Well, that's good.
To raise with like some standard, like they were going to cut it off when it hit $15, and now they're like, no, we're going to keep going.
Okay.
So this year it actually hit $15. Everywhere here, no matter what job you have, pays you $15 an hour minimum.
Cool.
And there is no tip wage here, like at all.
Yep.
In fact, let's see, Oregon. Yeah. Okay. So there's a minimum cash wage here of $12.75, but I don't understand how that works, and I've literally never seen anybody hit it. It's probably something that can technically be hit.
Yeah.
But I don't think people do. I don't know. I can't speak to that one, but I guess maybe there are some areas here that might operate under tip wage, but it's probably Southern Oregon because there's a lot less population down there, so things down there are generally cheaper. Up here, the much more populous area of Oregon, the most literal populous city in the state, is going to have higher prices, so they adjust for, our minimum wage here. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. As far as I know, we have the highest minimum wage in the U.S.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked by that. Yeah, I think the only I'm not shocked by that actually. I was gonna say like maybe California has you beat, but I doubt that.
Washington D.C., New York City, and so we're not counted because it is not an Oregon all-encompassing wage. It is specifically where we are.
Right, yeah.
But Washington D.C. and New York City have minimum wage set at $15. So there's only two places. So, but
that's not helpful though.
Washington D.C. taxes are extremely high.
Those are some of the two most expensive.
The two of the most expensive. I genuinely think.
Helpful at all.
Washington D.C. I think is the most expensive place in the U.S. And you don't get
Yeah,
representation
it's like,
there.
that's our nation's capital. It makes sense.
New York City, I think they're
It's New
New York.
I think New York's one of the most
state
populated cities in America, right?
Sales tax. Yeah, it's okay. So New York State sales tax is 4%. It's actually lower than I thought it was.
Yeah. New York is
Wait.
the most populated with 8.8 million.
The New York City sales tax is 4.5% for a total of sales and use tax of 8.87%. That is high. That's almost 9% tax that you're paying on almost anything.
Jeez.
Oregon doesn't have a sales tax. So you're not, when something is labeled at $15, you're paying $15. So I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. On top of the fact that I'm making $15 an hour. So, and we don't have tip wage, so our tips go to us. Granted, you always have to pay taxes on your tips. That's another thing that people don't consider. Especially when considering that they work in these tip wages states. You are getting this lower wage under the assumption that you're getting tips. And those tips are taxed just like you are regulated getting taxed. Yeah. It is not profitable to be working in some of these states in food service. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
That people, and most people, work 2 to 3 jobs because of this.
Yeah, I'm looking at just like a random list on Kiplinger.com, and it's the 11 most expensive cities to live in, with DC being number 5 and Manhattan, New York being the number 1.
I know that Portland's up there. I
feel like it's not as up there as these ones. See, Boston, Massachusetts, Seattle, Oakland, and
Arlington, Virginia. Really?
Oddly enough.
Oakland sucks ass. It's just because it's in California, but Oakland is really not.
Orange County, that's not surprising. It's Orange County.
Seattle, Washington. Cost of living is 50.7% higher above the U.S. average.
Yeah.
The median household income is $97,000 in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
I know people who live in Seattle. They don't make that much money.
But look, that's the median, though. This is average. It's different.
That's average.
Averages are
That's
different.
a problem. Well, I mean, granted, it's skewed by, like, 3 people having a bajillion dollars.
Yeah.
But when you consider that, you have to get down to that number.
Yeah.
It's not working up to that number. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because their employment rate is 2.4%. So it's like, whoo,
Yeah.
crazy up there. LA, Orange County. I'm surprised that LA is higher.
Really? I'm not surprised.
Or sorry, is lower than Orange County.
Yeah.
The median household income of LA. Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. The median household income of LA is $65,000. Yeah, that's because most people who live there are poor.
It's like they're poor as shit.
Their unemployment rate is double that of Seattle.
Yeah. They're poor,
Yikes.
they're trying to make their big break.
Brooklyn, Honolulu. Oh yeah, Honolulu is.
Yeah.
That's
Hawaii. Yeah.
beyond okay.
Yeah.
Like that, there's so many issues with us having Hawaii as a state. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's a whole other whole other basket.
Yeah.
Though, okay, so I do want to move on, but this is a good segue into this other thing that I want to talk about. So, Hex, what if I told you there was an awesome way to make money that's slightly illegal?
I would hear you out
Alright.
for sure.
What if I told you I had this dope ass Ocean's 11 scheme
I'm
or
definitely
plan to just make a bunch of money? All right, it's a very simple process. Okay, here's what we're gonna do.
Crime is fun.
All right. We need to find. I'm gonna detail this plan to you. Okay. We need to find a person, preferably older, just because they're easier prey.
Michael Caine.
Okay. But they also have to have stuff worth stealing. All right. They have to have stuff worth stealing. Remember that. All right.
Okay.
So we'll pick someone. All right. And then what we're going to do is we are going to hire psychics to convince this old person to give up their most valued and expensive possessions, and then convince them not only to give them up, but to then give them to us. Okay? And that's the plan.
Okay. So this is stupid.
Is it though?
And I'll tell you,
Is it though? Because there is a woman in Brazil who apparently was arrested. A woman in Brazil was arrested in Brazil with several accomplices who posed as psychics for allegedly swindling her elderly mother out of more than $140 million in cash, jewelry, and artwork. Is it that dumb? I don't know, man.
It is dumb.
Those results don't lie.
Here's the thing. Just marry them. Then it's legally yours.
That's fair enough. But if we can't do that,
if you can't do that,
yeah, I don't know, man. This plan, like, they got caught. Sure, that's just because they weren't smooth enough. This plan sounds like
because they went with psychic.
Pretty fucking good.
This isn't psych.
But it's also $140 million. So
that they don't have anymore.
Yeah. So to give context, Genevieve Bohici, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. An 82-year-old widow to the late art collector John Bohici reportedly held mystical beliefs which authorities say her daughter took advantage of. In January 2020, a self-described psychic approached Genevieve and convinced her that her daughter, Sabine Cole Bohici, was sick and would soon die, according to a statement by police in Rio de Janeiro. To save her, the psychic claimed the mother would have to fork over exorbitant amounts of money for spiritual treatment. The daughter backed up the claim, also feeding personal information to several more supposed psychics, all of whom pressured the mother to make bank transfers totaling 5 million reais. Next, police say the suspect told Genevieve her art collection was cursed with negative energy, and that it needs to be prayed over. Meanwhile, Sabine allegedly fired her mother's domestic employees so her accomplices could enter the home unimpeded and remove the art. After Genevieve became suspicious of the situation, her daughter allegedly confined her to her home for months, with the suspects mistreating and physically threatening her. In total, around $142.42 million worth of valuables was reportedly taken, including artwork by renowned Brazilian artists. 3 of at least 16 stolen paintings were from the modernist painter Tarsila do Amaral. A police estimated them to be worth around $137.69 million. God
damn.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. This plan seems pretty fucking good. Like, it seems pretty legit, all things considered. I think it's a pretty decent enough plan, I think. It worked for the most part, until they got caught.
I don't know any 100 millionaires like that, for one thing.
I'm sure we can
And it's not like you can necessarily just look that up.
We can find some.
Second, I'm down. But it seems like a really... there seems like so many better ways to go about this.
I mean, you gotta cater. You gotta cater to who you're working with. You know. The woman had very held mystical beliefs, and
well,
they
you want to know another reason that I know that this won't work?
Why?
Because somebody tried to do that with Stan Lee.
Oh, did they really?
Before he died.
Oh,
yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. They basically just stole a shitload of his money.
Well, they weren't trying hard enough.
Because they were the executor. I believe it was like his lawyer or some executor of his state. Like they had control of a lot of his stuff
Mhm.
because he was older and he trusted them, and they manipulated him into signing over a bunch of like power of attorney and all of this other
yeah.
BS. It's kind of like the situation with Britney Spears and
Yeah.
her conservatorship.
Right, yeah.
It's not exactly a conservatorship, but it's similar to that.
Similar,
being
in
able
the vein
to-
that Stan Lee does not have the independence to, make the choices with his
Right.
own stuff.
Yeah, and through manipulation.
Yeah,
like
through
yeah,
yeah.
sure. He was older and like didn't have 100% of his faculties, but also he's a busy guy.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
into his older age.
Oh, yeah.
And so somebody was just completely taking advantage of that, and so yeah. Theoretically, it's simple until one person looks at it and is like, this is
Hold
a little
on.
fucking weird.
Wait a minute. This is weird.
I think-
Not funny.
Like,
ha
that's
ha.
that's the thing, is like most of these, granted, we can't even begin to estimate how many of these there are
Yeah.
that do occur.
Right, yeah.
But I get the feeling it is so much harder to actually get through and manage to make it work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
$140,000, like, yeah, okay, so you got it. Did you spend all that money? Did you not go to jail? Like, you can't use that money to bail yourself out.
Right, yeah.
Because it's
like,
not your money.
Okay.
You got in trouble for the crime. It's like going and robbing a bank and then like getting arrested, and they give you like $10,000 bail, and you're like, well, can I use some of the money that I stole?
There's a story that I just briefly saw about that. Of a dude, hold on, let me see. Bank robber demanding his own money, hailed as hero in Lebanon. Many people
Not
are,
for Lebanon.
I guess it's a little different because I guess it's his money, but a man
Wait.
in Lebanon attracted
Oh, wait,
hundreds
he
of sympathetic
stole-
protesters Thursday when he attempted to forcefully retrieve his own savings from a bank at gunpoint.
Oh, yeah, it's a little different.
It's a little different, but like, I can't pronounce this name. Bassam al-Sheikh Hussein, 42, barged into the Beirut bank armed with a shotgun and a gas canister, threatening to set himself ablaze if he was not given $200,000 from his account. In response to the devastating economic and financial crisis,
I want to get this out of
Lebanon's banks have imposed severe restrictions on the amount of money depositors are allowed to withdraw. Hussein came in to get the money he considered rightfully his, saying he needed it to pay medical bills for his son and his father, who is reportedly in the hospital. The bank employees refused to hand over the money, and most customers fled the building during the initial panic, leaving at least 6 people trapped inside after he shut the doors. Hussein reportedly fired at least 2 shots, but nobody appeared to have been injured. Police showed up and began negotiating with Hussein, and he rejected a proposed $5,000, $10,000, and $30,000 in exchange for his surrender. Meanwhile, crowds of onlookers gathered outside the building, many of whom expressed support for the gunman. After a roughly 6-hour standoff with police, Hussein laid down his weapon and exited the bank in exchange for $35,000 to be delivered to his brother. So, it's not the same vein, but like, banks withheld his money. He robbed the bank for his own money.
That's the thing. Among most, I mean, granted, I only have the perspective of a United States citizen, and with that, most banks don't let you do that.
No.
Regardless, I have a minimum of $500 I can take out of my account. Like, granted, that's from an ATM.
Yeah.
But I like, they ask you questions of like, why do you need this much money at one time? Especially $200,000.
Yeah, especially, yeah.
Usually when you're working in such large quantities, you have to like give them notice.
Yeah, it's a whole thing because
like there's paperwork to go through.
Yeah,
like just because that money's yours
that
doesn't
was,
necessarily mean like you entrusted it to these people and they basically have to work as it like it's their investment.
Yeah.
It's your investment, but they're protecting it even from you.
Yeah. That was one of those like subtle adult lessons that I had to learn because like as a kid, you imagine the bank is where all the money is. You know, that's what you imagine. It wasn't until I, got older that I was like, right, banks just don't have like shit tons amount of money in them, like physically.
No.
Typically, like, especially if you're transferring, like, the reason you give notice for transferring a large sums amount of money is because the bank doesn't actually have the money there. They have to pull it from other places. And that was like one of those. That was like a subtle lesson of like, oh right, yeah, that's how banks work actually.
Yeah, they don't just have a drawer.
They don't just have like
that's like all of the ones that you've ever deposited.
The vault doesn't actually hold a bunch of cash in it. It's like that's not how that actually works. But yeah. Anyways, so let's move on to some of these Am I the Asshole posts here. I picked out 3 here. We'll read through them and then close up the podcast like that, and give our opinions on. This first one I think is very topical based on what we were talking about, retail and food and stuff like that. So this first one is, am I the asshole for not showing up to work? So that's the title. All right, that's the title of the post. So let that sink in first, and then I will read the actual post. So the post reads, I, a 17 female, worked for a retail place. I don't want to give the name, so let's just say that the clothes are on the cheaper end. Anyways, I am leaving for college next week, and I put in my 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. I told my boss that I was putting in my 2 weeks because I was going to college in another state, and I couldn't work there anymore because I would be so far away. She was passive-aggressive about me putting in my 2 weeks, but I didn't really care because I hated my job. My customers were rude, my coworkers made fun of me because my Spanish wasn't as good as theirs. I was a full-time worker when I applied to work part-time, and they didn't have bathrooms, which would really suck when I would be on my cycle working 6 to 9 hour shifts. The only good thing was that I got paid a lot, but I was also very overworked and stressed. Sometimes they would leave me being the only person on the register, and I had people complaining that I was too slow when I would have to ring up customers who gave me 30 plus articles of clothing. So obviously, I was more than happy to quit. So I see my schedule for this week, thinking I was only going to work until this Monday. I see that they have me on the clock for Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday as well. I was obviously livid because I had put in my 2 weeks from Monday, August 15th, and I made that very clear to my manager. I texted my assistant manager to give me the manager's number so that I could tell her to take me off of the schedule. My assistant manager did not respond to me, so I texted her again. It was crickets. I texted my assistant manager that if she didn't give me my manager's number, I wouldn't show up to work. She refused to answer me again. So this Tuesday, I skipped work. I got an angry text from my manager telling me if I did that again, I would be fired. I explained to her that my last day was supposed to be Monday, and the fact that I didn't have her number for the entirety of my employment is poor communication because I had to contact her through my assistant manager for months. I also told her that I quit and that she had no reason to put me on the schedule because I explained to her that I wouldn't be working. She told me that if she knew that I would be leaving, she would have found someone more permanent. Mind you, I wrote on my application that it was just a summer job and that I would be leaving for Pennsylvania in August. I don't think I did anything wrong, but my mom is saying I should have at least quit in person instead of over text message. So, am I the asshole?
Hell no.
No, exactly. I agree.
Hell no.
Absolutely not. I think that mom is kind of the asshole saying that she should go in person because, bitch, your daughter put in her 2 weeks already.
Yeah, you want her to go to that place.
She already did it.
She's already quitting from?
Yeah, she technically already did it legally.
There's no courtesy in that
it's
anyway.
Ridiculous.
It wasn't like this person was being rude about their approach. They're like, "Hey, I'm trying to contact the actual manager. Yep. I'm contacting the assistant manager." Literally every possible step that could have been taken was taken by this person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only applying to be a part-time person. Maybe, and I hate that, well, we would have just found a more permanent person. It's like, people are going to tell you that they want to work there because they always ask you, like, why do you want to work here? And it's like, because I want to fucking get paid.
I remember when I had my
what do you
my
think?
interview with Abercrombie and Fitch. I remember for that interview, it was a double interview. So it was one worker interviewing me, but I was with another person, like another candidate. And they asked that question of like, why do you want to work for us? And I remember it was a girl. She gave this like long speech of like, oh, I want to use this as a starting thing and like work my way up, or I want to like do other business stuff later. And I remember them like, they asked me and I'm like, I just want to get paid. Like, yeah, I just need a job for the summer, like low key.
Like, and you can't hold that against somebody.
Yeah.
Like they're always going to. But like, so at my job, basically, I'm a lifer, which isn't necessarily a moniker that I want to have.
It sounds.
But I've been there for 8 years, and there's no like leaving necessarily in sight. I'm trying to explore other options because I just want to work from home.
Yeah.
Because of Emily's immunocompromised. I just don't want to go out and expose myself to people who are dicks all day long.
Right. Yeah.
Who are not taking care of themselves and thinking about others. Like,
yeah.
For my own peace of mind and Emily's safety, I'm at a point where like I have a setup that I can do all of this from home in a confined room and be totally fine.
Yeah.
So, but we've had people that come in and like they apply and they're like, hey, I just want to do part-time, and then they quit within a couple months or whatever, or like, you know, that they're not like super gung-ho, like, oh man, I'm gonna come in every day and I'm gonna do a great job.
Woo! Let's fucking go!
Some people are just looking for a job, and then my manager or my general manager is just like, well, I probably wouldn't have hired them if this. I'm like, you hired them because you needed people to work. Like, come on. Like, you can't expect everybody.
You can't expect everyone to
like,
be
favorite thing in the world to be pizza.
Yeah.
You know? And it'd be nice if everybody took it super seriously. And I'm sure that, like, sometimes the benefits don't outweigh the negatives, like this person was saying. Like, hey, I got paid a lot of money, but, like, there was a lot of stress. It was more than I was intending to work. And people were rude. It's just
not worth it. I remember,
like, oh god,
I remember having a
customers are the fucking worst.
I remember having a conversation with my late grandfather. I used to do yard work for him, and my grandparents have this giant ass house because they had 5 children, and my grandfather was a neurosurgeon, and my grandmother is really good at stocks. But they have this giant house, and they have this giant backyard, and this giant front circle driveway, and a fucking giant side yard too. And when I was still in college, probably my sophomore to senior year of college, as well as maybe like 2-3 years after college, I did yard work for them in the summer. And that entailed cutting bushes, trimming trees, not mowing the grass, because my grandfather loved mowing the grass because he was retired. He loved doing that.
Do you have a little ride-on mower?
Yeah, that was like the one job I didn't do. He loved doing that. So like, that was like the one thing I didn't do until later. And then I also did mulching, which is a whole separate thing because they have a shit ton of trees in their backyard. And I think the amount of mulch that we typically get from my grandparents' house, I want to say is like 200 to 250 square feet.
Jesus Christ.
I think roughly, yeah. And it's like we usually get like this giant pallet of mulch bags, and basically the entire time I did it by myself. And I remember when I stopped doing it, one, because I didn't have time to do it anymore, and 2, I just didn't want to do it anymore in general. I remember my cousin volunteered to do it one year.
No.
And she's like, do you want to help? And she's like, do you want to help? And I remember laughing in her face, and I go, no. And she's like, well, how come? I'm like, A, B, and C. Because I used to do it, no one helped me then, and also, how long do you think this process is going to take between the two of us? And she's like, probably a couple hours, and then I laughed in her face again. And I'm like,
here all day.
You come talk to me, you were going to do this, and then you come talk to me, and we'll have this conversation again. And then I remember, like, I think it was like 3-4 days went by, and she messaged me and she goes, "I never want to do that ever again." And I go, "Exactly." And she's like,
you're right.
I totally understand why you said no." And I go, "Exactly. You understand the problem here." But so, I remember, early on though, when I did yard work for my grandfather, we got on the subject of making money, and he paid me very well, like way more than I ever really deserved, even being just family. He paid me way more. I think he paid me like, God, I want to say I think he paid me like at least $100 each day, like easily, like 70 to $100 a day easily, and I would work for probably like 6 hours, which isn't like the greatest thing, but I did this for the entire summer, so like. And he would even throw like extra in there too. So again, it sounds not great, but I will say that like it's hard for me to remember.
For manual labor, for how old were you?
20, at least.
For manual labor and
20s.
like not having and it's under the table technically.
Yeah.
You know, it's not regulated, so you're not seeing taxes taken off of it later. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was just a side. Yeah, but I remember we got into the conversation of like, I remember he's like, do you like getting paid? And I go, yeah, I like getting paid. Yeah, you like getting paid for work? And I'm like, yeah, like it's it's a job. It's kind of the point. And he goes, well, what if I told you that you could work and get paid 10, 15 times more than that? And I'm like, at this point, I knew where this conversation was going. He wanted me to be a doctor, as all Asian parents do. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, that would be awesome. And he's like, well, then you should consider going to medical school. And you should, consider being a doctor. And I go, okay, counterpoint, grandfather. Why did you become a neurosurgeon? Like, what was your... And he's like, I wanted to help people. And I go... That right there is the difference between you and me. I don't want to help people, and
I want money.
Is that your was that your passion? He goes, yes, that was my passion. I go, see, that's it. That's not my passion. Were you happy doing your job? And he goes, yes, I was happy. You go, I would not be happy. It doesn't matter how much money I would be making as a doctor. I could be making millions, sure, but I would hate every second of it. And like that was like the final nail in the coffin of like, okay, I understand what you're talking about. And I go, yeah, like don't get me wrong. I told him, I was like, don't get me wrong. Being a doctor is a great profession. I highly respect it.
Absolutely.
It makes 100%. I totally get it. Hell, three members of my family are doctors. Or were doctors in some capacity. One of my uncles was a dentist. My other uncle is an orthopedic surgeon. My grandfather was a neurosurgeon. Like, I totally get it. 100%. It's in our bloodline. I get it. But at the same time, they do it because they want to, and I do not want to. I could not handle that stress or responsibility in my life.
My grandpa... So I had some pretty intensive surgeries when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I came out and they were like, all right, he's going under. And I was like, this big.
Ooh, Jesus.
I was like, itty bitty.
Jesus.
Like my grandpa literally said I could fit in the palm of his hand. And I'm taller than my grandfather.
Wow.
I'm bigger than my grandfather. So my palm is bigger than his palm. I was born a month early.
Whoa, okay.
And yeah, I was very tiny.
Oh wow.
And because of that, I had some health issues. And my grandpa was under the assumption, he's like, well, you spent all this time in the hospital when you were a kid. Like you went through all these surgeries. Like, don't you want to do that for other people? I was like, fuck no.
No.
Like, I'll never want to go into a doctor ever again. Like, I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for the work that they did. Because the condition that I had is like 1 in 25,000. It was either 25,000 or 250,000, but I think it was only 1 in 25,000. And I was only one of like 8 kids at the time to survive the surgery that I went through. And he's like, don't you want to like, cut people open and do that stuff? I was like, no, because believe it or not, I actually have some fucking repressed ass memories up in here of that stuff. Like, because when you're a kid, they don't put you under anesthesia.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
You can't.
You can't.
Because you
Yeah.
can fucking die.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Because I
like,
used to work with my
granted-
uncle, and he was a pediatric dentist. Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're operating on me when I'm like, I'm not saying that I was aware.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I just have these like
But you-
flashes
yeah.
of memories
Yeah.
of like looking down and there's like tubes in my body. Like, granted, these could have been like dreams that I had when I was younger and they just like stuck with me.
Yeah.
But there's still like a level of trauma there
Yeah.
that I'm like, I'm not gonna do that to somebody
Yeah.
else. Like, I get it. It's really important work, and like I said, like I will always be thankful. Unfortunately, the surgeon who did my surgery, he like pioneered the technique that was used to save my life, and he passed away quite a few years ago, and I will always be thankful to him. I think his name was Dr. Timothy Blessing.
It's a fitting name.
And yeah, he's
It's a
fucking
real
cool dude.
fitting
He
name.
like whenever I went in there,
Real
he was
fitting
just this
name.
big dude,
Yeah.
and he was super sweet, like super awesome, nice guy, and like he terrified the shit out of me when I was 10, because I went in there for a checkup, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing good." He's like, "Are you breathing okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, sometimes like one of my lungs is a little, you know, feels like it burns a little bit more." He's like, "Yeah. That's a developmental thing. Like one of your lungs is now smaller because of my organs were like all in different fucking places and shit.
Uh-huh.
Like my stomach was up here,
Oh wow.
and my heart was like
Oh.
down here. My intestines were all
Oh,
sorts of
Jesus.
different weird places.
Jesus.
And because of that, one of my lungs didn't completely develop
Right. Yeah.
the same way as the other one did, so it's
Yeah.
a little smaller. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, just so you know, when you turn 12 or 15, we might have to go in and do another surgery, you know, in case the patch that's on your diaphragm doesn't hold." And I'm like,
Fantastic.
"I'm sorry, what?
Fantastic.
I'm 10 years old, bro. I'm gonna have to go back in for
Man,
this shit."
can't wait to look forward to my 12th birthday. Let's go.
Yeah, I was like, well, and it literally left me with this weird
Oh.
existential, like, I left there and I was like, I'm gonna die when I'm 12
Yeah.
years old.
Holy Christ.
And I legitimately had that thought. So,
Wow.
like, no, to my grandfather, I was like, nah, you can fuck off with that shit.
This is gonna be a nah from me, dude.
But doctors are amazing, and so I don't have any doctor friends, but I have a lot of nurse friends, and which is just as equally important.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said, that was not my passion at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
0%.
Yeah.
I 100% can tell you that is never something that I had interest in.
Yeah.
I wanted to be
Same.
an archaeologist, which is a different form of doctor.
I wanted to be a court
But
judge.
it's not that kind of doctor.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to be a teacher. Like, I actually like helping people. I like teaching people things. But I don't want to help people by opening them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
I thought about being a civil lawyer, but
Speaking of, okay, so
it's a lot of education.
speaking of childhood traumas, this is the next one. I haven't actually read this one, so usually I'll proofread these for the most part. I didn't proofread this one just because I thought the title was just too interesting that I'm like I don't want to spoil this for myself, so I just want to go right into it. But so the title for this one is "Am I the asshole for telling my 7-year-old the truth about make-believe characters?" See, that's the same reaction that I had when I first read this title. But so here's what this is what the post reads. Both my child's mom and I are atheists. I always felt like teaching kids to believe in things like Santa, Tooth Fairy, and Easter Bunny is just a low-key way to believe in imaginary figures, so they're more accepting of the crazy beyond belief stuff in the Bible. My 7-year-old lost a tooth and asked me straight up, is the Tooth Fairy real? I had to think for a minute. Side note, if the Tooth Fairy was real, this thing travels in the dead of night to take children's body parts for money. Can we agree that this is a sick individual? Definitely the darker side of fables, but I digress. part of me felt like I might be taking that. By the way, that side note is in the Reddit post. That's not me just saying that.
Yeah.
That side note's in the Reddit post. It goes on to say, part of me felt like I might be taking away the wonder of childhood, but I had to be real, and I always rationalized long ago that if my child ever asked me, I'm going to say the truth. So I told him, no, the tooth fairy is not real, and if you have any other magical being questions, feel free to ask me, and I will always tell you the truth if you want to know. My kid immediately asked about Jesus, Easter Bunny, and Santa. I didn't even know my kid knew about Jesus. I had to be real and said those are all make-believe, but that doesn't mean we can't celebrate traditions such as Christmas. He said I always thought those were fake. How would Santa deliver all those presents? I felt bad about not discussing this with his mom prior. It kind of all happened quickly. She is clearly upset that I had told him and gave me the look and didn't talk to me the rest of the night, but at the same time, I didn't feel lying about it to my kids was the right move. Am I the asshole?
I would say yeah.
Really?
Honestly,
that's fair, because
yeah.
I would say yes as well, honestly. Like,
so it kind of goes along with that thing they said about taking away the wonder of a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's them more taking their cynical approach to life and religion or lack of religion. And if there's anything that I know about atheists that say they're atheists, they're generally just dicks.
That is,
like,
unfortunately kind of accurate, because that's also my experience.
Because, like, if you're agnostic or you're atheist or you just don't do religion, I'm any one of those. I fit into any of those categories. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe in any religion, but, like, if Christianity turned out to be real, Jesus is my homie, bro. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to go to hell. At the same time, like, if I go to hell, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, that's how I feel. But if religious zealots, like people who are like, Christianity is who I am. It's what I identify as. Like that's a part of who I am. It's like it's atheists that say they're atheists. That's who they are. And it kind of comes with this mean-spirited, bitter outlook on life. Like I said, cynical. They're like they use that as a lens in which they view everything else. And I'm not trying to necessarily make a blanket statement about all atheists. It's you know, if you've met the kind of person that this sounds like, you get an idea of other people. Like there's a very specific person that this is, and it's not all atheists. It's not all non-religious people. There's just cynical people out there that are like, I'm gonna just try and make people see things the way that I see it, because it's the real thing. Like my family was very non-religious. I believed in the Easter Bunny. I believed in Santa Claus. I didn't believe in Jesus, but that's just because they're like my whole family is like, Christianity
sinner.
is not a thing.
You dirty sinner.
But it wasn't like I didn't believe in Jesus because my family was like, Jesus isn't real. It's because I was never a part of any sort of congregation. I was not a part of Christianity, Catholicism, anything like that. So it just wasn't in my realm. But like, I found out that the Easter Bunny wasn't real. I found out that Santa wasn't real, and like, yeah, it was a little sad. Like, actually, I definitely broke down when I found out that Santa wasn't real.
Really?
Yeah, it actually hit me kind of hard. I was probably in like 3rd or 4th grade. And I was actually I was at lunch in our cafeteria, and I was like, I can't wait to see what Santa's gonna bring me. And then there was this one fucking kid. He was like, you still believe in Santa?
Oh, no.
And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, Santa's not real. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I totally knew that. Like, I tried to play it off, and then I came home, and I was like, Dad, is Santa not real? And he's like, yeah, it's me. Like, but, like, or maybe it was my grandpa, and he's like, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like we're not still going to get you Santa presents, you know?
Ah.
Like,
My mom still does that.
yeah, so yeah, my childhood wonder was taken away, but like it means something else. Like
Yeah.
Santa represents something that isn't just this mythological creature or person, you know? Yeah, it represents more than just like, oh, he's a symbol for Christianity or he's
Yeah.
a symbol for Christmas. He's just a thing.
It's a concept.
That-
A concept of giving gifts to, people.
Yeah, like the idea. I think a way that you could look at it in a non-cynical view is like Santa is everybody's generosity.
Yeah.
It is like he's the generosity. Like he is what embodies the generosity that you are going to bestow upon other people.
Yeah.
You know, like because you're always going to give a gift, and whether or not you are religious and that you celebrate Christmas. If you are celebrating Christmas, you are still participating in those activities. So like the idea of just like killing the idea of Santa is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because you're basically taking away an entire aspect. Now, if the kid, like he said here, is a little bit more of a, I guess he's a realist.
More practical.
Yeah, he's a practical kid. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But like
I think
I don't think he was wrong in telling his kid.
I think it's one of the
it's the idea behind it
Yeah.
was motivated purely based on him.
Yeah, I've seen
less
a
about
couple-
his kid.
Yeah, I've seen a couple comments here that say, yes, you're the asshole for not consulting with the wife. To which, sure,
Oh yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
I'll agree with that partly, but at the same time, like you said, it's in the heat of the moment. Like, in that moment, like, is the wife home? Can you call out and be like, honey, we need to have a conversation? Like, in that moment, is it possible to do that?
Well, it also doesn't sound like he says my child's mom.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they're married.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Yeah, not
So
necessarily.
that does kind of create a different perspective on
Yeah.
that, you know. So maybe it was even motivated from that perspective, and he's not like letting you know.
I think
I don't want to like get
Yeah.
too speculative on that end, but
Yeah.
you definitely should consult with the other parent in that situation because they might feel differently than you.
Yeah.
Just because you know that she's atheist doesn't
Doesn't mean
necessarily
that- yeah,
mean
that
that,
you're gonna-
she
yeah.
doesn't feel a certain way and she didn't grow up a certain
Yeah,
way.
I think for me, I would agree that there's it's like a intrinsic rite of passage for children to believe in these characters because you go through I think learning or realizing, I guess, that these characters aren't real, I would say is a very important lesson to learn in like for a child. It's one of the things because I think it's important because like I learned that Santa wasn't real also pretty young. I want to say I was probably 9 or 10, which is a little bit older to realize that Santa's not real. But it was the fact that I had believed Santa was real, but then I remember at summer camp, my friends were like, "Hey, you know that Santa's not real, right?" And I also played off like, "Oh yeah, like of course Santa's not real." And my friends, thankfully, I had a good group of friends, and like, right, but to younger kids, Santa's real, and I'm like, well, yeah, like, duh, of course, like, kids believe in make real, like, yeah, but we're also just gonna be Santa for them, so technically he is real, and it's like that's just our job, like. Then that was how I learned that Santa wasn't real. It's because we are Santa now because we're older. We have to be Santa.
Right.
And so thankfully,
yeah. That's the other thing is like not only are you taking away from your kid, but you're kind of taking away the idea in the future for them to experience that.
Yeah.
And to like give them that like foundation of, well, we're gonna do that later.
Yeah.
Because like you're not only I don't want to say ruining your child's experience, because that's very subjective.
Yeah.
And I think that's going a little overboard, but like you're not letting him experience being a kid, because
Yeah.
at least an assumed average American kid who that's even too specific. Someone who participates in Christmas. It's like you said, it's a rite of passage. It's just something that a lot of people go through, a lot of kids go through, and whether or not it's necessarily means something, it definitely is a part of their personality later in life. Like, my mom fucking loves Christmas. It is her favorite part of the year. Like,
I would say I would be in the same boat. I'm not like fanatical about it, but I love Christmas.
Dude, every year my mom gets a new blow up fucking
like decoration.
Lawn decoration.
Dude, your mom and my mom would
every
get
year.
along great.
and like lights, and she like constantly bakes cookies and stuff. Like, her house, literally, their house looks like it was like if Santa had a fucking Christmas obsession. I swear to God, if he was just like, whoa.
Damn.
Yeah. And like, it's constantly Christmas music playing, and you know that's an experience there. It's like, and we all know that, you know, Santa's not real.
Yeah.
But there is a Santa feeling there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that it's actually speaking
I'm
of
definitely gonna
speaking of the
go under the
child,
assumption that
yeah,
Santa's real.
yeah. Speaking of the child experience of being, you know, the experience of being a kid. Did you ever watch the show Boy Meets World?
I did not.
Okay, watch it. Great show. It's a fantastic show. But I grew up. My sister and I, we both grew up watching it. Her a little bit more than me, at least in the early seasons. But Boy Meets World is all about. It's a typical family sitcom on TV. That was on TV back in the 90s, and it followed the main character, a little boy named Corey Matthews, and it was basically his kind of journey from adolescence, and the show series goes all the way through college as well. Like, this series was a hit, and it's a great show because it teaches. Back in those times, a lot of sitcoms were comedic. They're like zany, and like they had like gags in it, and this show did too. But a good majority of the episodes of like, they talked about really heavy stuff. Like, they talked about discrimination from like the Diary of Anne Frank. They talked about you know, poverty, and because like Corey's best friend Sean lives in a trailer park, and they talk about abandonment because Corey's best friend Sean again lives in a trailer park, and his mom and dad both left him, and they talk about like some really heavy stuff. And being such a fan of this show, there's another podcast on Spotify called Pod Meets World, where 3 of the main cast members of that show go back and watch these episodes and actually talk about like their experiences and stuff like that. And the second episode of the first season actually is called On the Fence, where Corey is like Corey's like, all of his friends are just setting up for this huge water gun fight called the Water War, and in order to make money, Corey ends up painting shutters for his neighbor, and he uses like a spray gun for it, and ends up fucking up the fence on his side. And so now he painted all the shutters, but now he has to repaint his fence for his family because he messed up, but he can't go to the Water War. And like, the whole message is that eventually he's like, Corey's painting the fence, and his dad comes out and goes, "Hey, I'll take care of this. You go to the Water War and have fun." And Corey's like, "Well, I thought I have to, you know, it's my job to paint the fence. I have to fix what I've done." And the biggest lesson is, the dad goes, "No, your job is to be a kid for as long as you possibly can, because it's an experience. Because being a child is one of those experiences that you can never get back. You know, it's that idea of you have to be as young as possible because of we all grow up, we all get older, and it's a great episode, and it's an awesome. The fact that you haven't heard of it is very surprising. I loved this show when I was
I've
younger.
heard of
It's
it,
great.
but I just never watched it.
It's an absolutely fantastic show. I highly recommend you and Emily like watch it. The first couple seasons are kind of rough, just because it's the 90s. He's like, again, this entire series goes through this kid's life, or like the actor's the same throughout the entire series. So it's like
Dang.
literally from adolescence to adulthood. It's like it's a wild time, but it's an awesome show. But that it's just that idea just reminded me of that episode, because I had just finished listening to that like a few weeks ago. But okay, so moving on to our last Reddit post from Am I the Asshole? This one is titled. This one was really interesting to me, just from the title alone, which is, "Am I the asshole for trying to pressure my son into socializing at university?" So it goes on to read, "My 52 female son, 23 male, is going to university and he is not making many friends. I keep telling him to try and he says he will, but then
apparently
he doesn't."
I can't even read this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. That's... Hold on, let me...
Don't refresh, because if you want to...
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to read it,
It was unfortunately
it's
removed
not
by...
going to
Alright,
exist.
that's unfortunate. It was removed by moderators, but okay. So, my 52 female son, 23 male, is going to university and he is not making many friends. I keep telling him to try and he says he will, but then he doesn't. He instead goes up to a nearby ski resort every day by himself and just takes photos there and explores by himself up there. He says it's where he goes to decompress and relax, and that it's where he feels at home. I get that, but he'd feel more at home at university if he actually explored more at university and got to make friends and maybe even a girlfriend/boyfriend. I asked him why he doesn't get a girlfriend, and he used to say that he just didn't feel like it because he was up at the ski resort, and now he's saying he's aromantic, but doesn't feel romantic attraction, which I don't buy because he's had girlfriends before. I personally think that he is just lazy when it comes to putting in the effort, because every time I try to persuade him to go for a girl, he always tries for a bit and then just stops when it gets harder. One day he asked me why I keep trying to force him to socialize and get a girlfriend and get the university experience. I tell him that I just want him to be happy at university and make some lifelong memories. I tell him that I also had an aromantic phase when I was a teenager, but I grew out of it when I put effort into dating. But now he's 23 and is too old to have that phase. Now he refuses to talk to me or answer my texts. Am I the asshole?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. I would
100%.
also agree with this, and it is one of those unfortunate posts of like, I get where the mom's coming from. I totally get it. But at the same time,
I don't get it.
I think it's just I get that it's like, I get it in the vein of like having children, you always want what's best for them. Like, no matter how old your kids get, they will always be your child. And
it's
like,
so subjective.
It's very subjective. It's super subjective. But like, and
the thing is, it's not subjective to your opinion.
Yeah.
It's subjective to their opinion.
Yeah, but like, and like, so like, I get that the mom, like, you know, you want them to make friends. Like, that's when you send your kid off to elementary school. You hope that they make friends, they socialize, they they learn and they grow. So like, I get where the mom's coming from, but at the same time, the kid's 23. He's an adult, and like at this age, college is. I will say that as much as I would say that my college experience was not the same for the average college student. I would say that I did a lot of really, really cool things that I think a lot of college students probably don't get to experience. But like, my experience is vastly different than my sister's experience. And that, I'm in college, we'll say 4 years, because that's the average typically. Those 4 years are the most important years to try anything and everything. You know, those are, I think, high school is where you kind of sort out who you are for the most part. College, I think, is the place where you really, or at least, you know, the age of going into college. Those are the years that you are like, this is just who I am. Like,
Yeah.
that's just straight up. Changing at this point is way not gonna happen.
It's less likely for anything to stay permanent.
Yeah.
Like a complete personality change, or like picking up a hobby is different than a different perspective
Yeah.
on life. Like, granted, like you will gain a different perspective on your life in college, but it's either reinforces what you already thought due to your education, or the opposite.
Yeah.
you
Or
know.
it completely, or it alters it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so like, yeah, if and again, like you have to consider that this kid is 23. Like, they're an adult, they can make their own decisions, and I think the mom has to. I think the mom's just not accepting that. And again, it's like, I will say that she's the asshole, but I also am like, I get where she's coming from, because that's just, I think it's just her trying to be a good parent, and like, I can respect it, but at the same time, you also have to respect your kid, and like, he's making those choices, like, and that's like, it's not like he goes up to the ski resort every day, takes photos, you know, does whatever. Is he breaking
Maybe
laws?
that's their thing.
He feels comfortable doing that. He's not committing any crimes. He's not hurting anybody. And it's like, okay, sure.
Is your son's passion photography or snowboarding?
Yeah,
or just being out in nature? Like, that alone could be their like a comfortable place. You know, maybe this is like what they're pursuing.
Yeah.
And in terms of like forcing socialization on kids, it almost never goes well.
No,
because
absolutely
it just breeds more social anxiety.
Yeah, it
because
reinforces
my dad,
the idea of just not wanting to do it.
No, you're like, anybody telling you to do something, generally you're not gonna want to do it.
Yeah.
And especially if somebody's railing against you that much about something that, you know, like, social anxiety is absolutely a thing. I had it for a really long time.
Oh, you had, as in past tense? I still have it.
Oh yeah, I for the most
lucky.
part, like, I don't like people, but that's because I think people are gross.
Yeah.
And like, if we weren't living in a pandemic where there's like 4 diseases that can kill you right now,
yeah,
I really don't have a problem like going up and meeting new people. I really don't. I'm cautious of people be like outside of pandemicness, because people are weird. But like, whenever I've been invited to like a party, or like getting to meet new people, I'm usually like, I dive in there and I'm just trying to get to know people, or if somebody really introduces me to somebody. But it is kind of a 50-50. I actually went to my sister's baby shower a while ago, and there was nobody in the room that I knew except for my mom.
Yeah.
And her mom. So it was all of my little sister's friends and her husband's friends, who all lived in California. And so it was like, I could have gone and spoken to these people, but there wasn't really anything in it for me.
Yeah.
Like, it was a little bit of social anxiety, but I don't think it was anxiety. It was just like, I don't really need to do this.
Yeah.
And like, maybe that's what this person is feeling. Like, they're like, I don't need to be in this situation. Like, just because you don't have friends doesn't mean you're not getting a college experience, because like, their college, the parents' college experience is subjective to that person.
Yeah.
Like, just because you had a ton of friends in college doesn't mean that your child is going to have that. And also, how many of those college friends do you still talk to? Just because you have those great college memories does not mean that those are continued experiences that you're still having.
Yeah, and again, like my college experience was very different than my sister's college experience. Like you said, all the friends that I made in college, I don't talk to anymore. Which is like, I look back at it and it's kind of sad because I liked those people, and the people that I met in college were really cool, but I just don't talk to them. I simply just don't. And that's normal. It's for one reason or another. Either we grew apart, or I actually follow two of them on Twitter. I know for a fact that they live in San Francisco, and so like they live on the other side of the country.
Good luck hanging out with them.
Yeah, so it's like I know. Versus but like all of my high school friends, I still regularly talk to still. Hell, my high school friends, I'm literally going to go golfing with them next Saturday. Or a week from this Saturday, which I hate golf, but like they invited me to go do it. And I'm like, sure, why not? Well, let's have some fun. Versus my sister, she a lot of the friends that she made in college, she regularly talked to, but like none of her. It's the opposite for her. All of her high school friends, she stopped talking to once they graduated, and reading this post, I related to it a lot. Because for the first 2 years of college for me, I was in a similar situation like this, where because I went to the same school as Nicole, I went to Miami University, and Nicole, when Nicole found out that I got accepted, she did everything in her power to
get you to be a social butterfly.
It was kind of like that, but she was telling me all the things that I needed to do when I got into college. She's just like, because I'm going to Miami, it's a very the style, like the fashion for students is very different than what I normally wear. I typically wear t-shirts and cargo shorts in the summer, as an example. But at Miami, a lot of the people that Nicole hung out with wore pastel button-down shirts and pastel shorts. Very preppy clothes, and that was the style. And so when I was getting ready to go to college, she was like, I was picking out new clothes, and she's like, you can't wear cargo shorts anymore. And I'm like, how come? She's like, that's not what people wear at Miami. I go, well, that's too bad, because that's definitely what I'm wearing. Because like,
like
that.
Who gives a shit?
She's like, and you have to wear like this sort of clothes and this stuff. And I'm like, why? Like, why do I have to? She's like, because you want to fit in. And I go, what does it matter? What is it like? What does it matter?
Who am I fitting in with?
Who am I fitting in with? Yeah, it's like that's how you talk to me. And I go, no, I'm not gonna sacrifice my individuality to fit in with other people that I may not even get along with.
Right.
And like,
how much older is she than you?
She's 3 years older than me.
So she was a year away from you not even being there.
Yeah. But that was another contributing factor, is she can't be there to look after me, so she wants to make sure that I will be okay by myself, and that's being an older sibling, being a parent, that's why I get where this mom's coming from.
That's commendable.
Yeah, like again,
on your sister's end,
it's commendable, and I get it, but at the same time, like, I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions, and if I'm gonna fuck up, then okay, I have like it is one of the things where it's like I always get into arguments occasionally with I get into car arguments with people occasionally, and they're like, well, what if you mess up? What if you do this? I'm like, then I mess up. Like and I make a mistake. And like that's how I do it. But another thing was, Nicole did a lot of Greek life stuff. That was a big thing that she tried to push on for me, to which I remember there was a fraternity that she would always tell me about called Lambda Chi Alpha, and I guess she knew a bunch of people in there. She would always tell them about me. It was okay. The guys that I knew there were pretty okay, but I don't know. Like, I didn't really talk to them all that much. but like Nicole would always tell them about me, so they really wanted to meet me, and it got to a point. It eventually got to a point where I actually was going to join the fraternity, but I turned them down afterwards. I was like, they actually gave me an invitation to join. I accepted, and then after a couple of days later, I was like, I'm sorry, but like I'm really glad that you guys like wanted me in this organization, but it's just not for me. And then like, sure, we're sorry to hear that, but like, sure, totally, you gotta like, this is your decision. You gotta do what you gotta do. We totally get it. And I remember Nicole being furious at me. I don't think there are very few moments where I've ever seen Nicole be that angry before. And I remember her, I can't remember if it was the day of I turned the invitation down or a couple days later, but I remember she called me screaming at me, just being like, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you just like turned them down like that after like not even like trying to get to know them a little bit better. I can't believe like you're throwing your life away. You're throwing all these opportunities away. And I remember like she yelling at me like this, and I remember screaming back at her, just telling her it's my life and I get to do what I want. It's my choice to make. If I'm throwing this opportunity away, then fine. I am, but you don't get the right to tell me what I can and cannot do with my life. And she's like, and obviously she didn't take that well.
No.
In the heat of the moment, she didn't take that well. We patched it up afterwards, but it was a big thing, and I remember it was really I remember the conversation of I was in my dorm, and I remember I left to go like away from my dorm to be, like not be in a public setting. And I remember screaming this at her, hanging up the phone, and then like coming back to my dorm, and some of my friends were there, just like chilling, and they're like, "Hey,
what's up, bud?
Everything cool?" And I go, "Oh, do you guys hear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, are you cool?" And they had never seen me, they'd never heard me that angry before, and I'm like, "Yeah, I just got in a little disagreement with my sister is all." And I remember went inside, and like my sisters called my mom called me. And it was the same thing of like Nicole just wanted what she thought was best for me. And I'm like, that's the problem. She wants what she thinks is best for me. She doesn't know what's actually best for me. Could it be? Sure, it could be. But that is not her decision to make. And it's the same deal here is that, at this point I was, I think 19, 20, a little young, arguably, to make my own decisions. But at the same time, comes a point where you have to let your kid make their own choices, and
you have to let them make mistakes.
You have to let them make mistakes, and like you hope
whether you like them
whether
or
you
not.
whether you like it or not, you have to let them make their choices and make their mistakes. You hope that the mistakes they make aren't bad or like super egregious, but
and you should have faith enough in them
exactly
to like not even necessarily that they're going to make those mistakes and learn from them, but like have faith enough in them that just because you don't think it's right for them, that they think it's right for them.
Yeah.
Like you need to be confident enough that you raise them well enough that they feel like they're making the right decisions.
Yeah.
It's not about what you think those decisions are.
And if they aren't, then you hope that you raise them well enough for them to understand what is wrong.
Yeah. Like they should feel comfortable enough in their decision making to feel like this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
This is who I want to be hanging out with. This is the kind of person that I want to be. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of the time that my dad basically asked me if I was gay. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
So, I think I was in a junior or a senior, and I was going. Actually, I might have been a sophomore. So I was going over to my like best friend at the time's house like all the time, and because we were in most of the same classes together, and like he wasn't as good of a student as I was, which is really funny because he got into college and I didn't. And
Ironic.
I think he graduated from college and I didn't. But like so he was kind of dumb. Like he had a passion for certain things and he excelled in those things, but he didn't in others. And the things that I had a passion in, I didn't get the chance to excel. I didn't give myself the chance to excel because I was so worried about him. So I partnered with him on a bunch of projects, and I burned the candle at both fucking ends. In trying to get us good grades and like help him out.
Right. Yeah.
So my work suffered and he benefited. Basically from it. So his grades steadily got better and like he was like, oh hey, I'm doing good in school, and then he kind of like settled down into like being a better student. And I didn't. And so I was going over there, I was hanging out all the time. Like we would play D&D, we'd play Halo, I'd go play Rock Band, like on top of doing all this schoolwork. And I was like, hey Dad, like I'm gonna go over to Chase's today. And he's like, son, do you like girls? And I was like, yeah, Dad, I like girls. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you know, I never see you hanging out with them. I never see you talking about it. And I'm like, Dad, I was like 15 or 16, and I'm like, if I could be talking to girls regularly, I would probably be doing that right now. But I'm really bad at it, because you're a single dad. Well, he wasn't single at the time. Most of my life, he was single up to me being in middle school. So, like, my benchmark for a person encountering women was not super high. My dad didn't date he didn't date women who were the best fit for him.
Right.
Mostly he dated women who he met at bars or parties, and he hung out with them.
That's his lifestyle.
And that was his lifestyle. That's how I was born, basically. He just hooked up with this girl who was like 8 years older than he was, and then I popped out. Like, literally, that's basically what happened. And like, that's fine. Like, whatever. I'm not pissed about that. But it's like, my dad wasn't confident enough in me to understand that, like, maybe he kind of fucked up in the department of, like, he never talked to me about girls ever, if that was his like intent. And like, he knew that I liked girls. He knew that. He just was unsure for some reason. It's not like I gave him no reason to think otherwise. Like, I am a straight white male. I'm boring. I have blonde hair, blue eyes, and I am straight and white. Like, I am as lame as you can.
You didn't give him reason to doubt you, but you also didn't give him reasons to trust you.
Like, I didn't reinforce his like, expectation, but he didn't give me reason to, like, forward that expectation. Or forward that motivation. Think it was
necessary to have to reinforce that.
No, I had friends and stuff. It's not like I didn't tell him, like, hey, I talked to a girl today at school, Dad.
I like how you say that. I had friends.
Like, I had friends who were girls, and I was hanging out with this one guy consistently, and he kind of thought I was gay. I was like, what?
Okay.
What?
Like, okay.
Like, at that point in time, I think I had like 2 gay friends, and I really didn't have a concept of what that was until my friend came out to me, and like me and a group of friends. It was the first time, and my reaction was a little, like, my internal reaction was actually different than like my external reaction. Because he's like, hey, you know, like I wanted all of you guys here because you all mean a lot to me. You are like some of my closest friends, and like I just wanted to tell you guys that I'm gay. And I was like, cool. It's fucking awesome, dude. Like I was, and like I still feel that way. Like I'm really happy that I had somebody who was confident enough in me and our friend group that they could confide something like that in me, because it meant a lot to him. And I still hold that, like, and like anybody who needs that it's really important, and I hope that more people are able to consistently do that. But at the same time, inside I was like, fuck yeah, more for me.
Yeah.
I was like, now I get more bitches.
Exactly.
Which is like,
I never understood people who
and
were
again,
who are like, like gay guys are like
they're destroying
the chances for other guys to get women. Like,
it's
no,
like,
what do you mean?
If you're having a hard time getting women, that's on you.
Yeah, like what?
There's clearly something wrong with you. It's not this gay person being gay with another person.
Yeah.
Like, they have nothing to do with that.
I actually had a somewhat similar experience with that, but it wasn't with my family. It was with my friends. They all thought I was gay in high school, and I was like, and I remember them asking me. They're like, so like, no, they didn't ask me. They were like, no, Maxwell's gay, and I go, excuse me. And like,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
and they're like,
why did you come up with that?
And yeah, it's like, where'd you hear that? They're like, well, like, you are though, right? And I'm like, on what grounds? And they're like, well, we've never seen you with a girlfriend. And I'm like, hurtful, but okay. And they're like,
hurtful but truthful. You're not wrong.
Okay, you're true, but ow. You take dance lessons, and I'm like, okay.
Channing Tatum took dance lessons.
Yeah, it's like you take dance lessons, and you like we've never seen you express interest in another girl. And I'm like, okay, that one's just wrong, because I always tell you guys about a girl that I like, so that's just wrong. But like they all, and,
you're
like,
just not paying attention, which hurtful.
Yeah, which again hurtful. And they're like, and you're not like a masculine person. I'm like, again, hurtful. And they're just like, and I'm like, no, I'm straight. I just, unfortunately, I just haven't encountered another female that, feels romantically attracted to me. So, thanks for that, I guess. I'm glad we had to have this conversation. But no, I'm just alone and sad. So
thanks for pointing out the fact that not only am I straight, I can't get a girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, thanks, I guess. Good talk, guys. Anyways,
you're helping out a lot.
Are we hanging out today or not?
You're buying me lunch.
They did
least.
end up buying me lunch after school to make up for it, because they felt so bad.
Nice.
But,
oh god.
But yeah. So going back to this post though, it is so unfortunate to like hear the end of this. Of now he refuses to talk to me and answer my texts. Like that's such a sad.
It's fair though.
It's fair, yeah, but it's such a sad thing, because it's like yeah, of course he's not going to answer your message and text, because you don't respect him enough to trust in him to make his own decisions and figure out who they are as a person. And like I relate to that a little bit as well, because my grandparents on my dad's side, I talk to them occasionally. Like I talk to them for like birthdays and holidays and the typical reasons you would talk to family members. But outside of that, I don't talk to them at all. And while some people will say that I'm just a bad grandchild, which sure, that's fair enough. I remember talking to Nicole about this, because Nicole actually talks to them somewhat regularly, just because she'll call them about, because Nicole's getting into cooking more, and she wants to make more traditional Korean stuff, which is what my grandparents on my dad's side are. They're Korean, and so like she'll talk to them for at least significantly more than I do. I do it out of obligation, but Nicole will do it out of actual like
interest,
yeah,
compassion,
and compassion. Yeah, I don't do that. And I remember us talking about it, and she's like, "How come you should talk to them more?" And my girlfriend has told me the same things. Like, you should talk to your grandparents more. And I go, that is fair. I should, but at the same time, I don't talk to them, not simply because I'm not interested in talking to them. It's because of every time I do talk to them, the conversation typically goes, "How are you? I'm good. What do you do for work?" "Oh, I work from home." And then my grandparents go, "Oh, well, if you want a job at a hospital, or if you want us to set up something for you, just call us." And that's how the conversation always goes. And I always go, "Thanks, I'll keep that in mind," and then I move on.
It's nice that is an option.
It's nice, yeah.
But that's very.
But
That's kind of cold.
The unfortunate thing is that has been an option every time I've talked to them for the past, ever since I was little.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe not like that specifically, but that is the.
There's no other divulging into who you are.
There's no other divergence, and it's always, and I always, it is upsetting that when I talk to them, I know I can hear that I can hear the disappointment in them, in their voice, when I tell them, like, they'll ask me, what do you do for work? And I'm like, "Oh, I'm still streaming, I'm still doing this, but I also work part-time for a video game company called Ubisoft." And they always go, "Oh, that's nice," or they go, "Oh, that's good." And it's just how they say it. I'm like, I know they're saying it to be polite, and it's unfortunate that the stuff that I do in their eyes is not meaningful enough to matter to them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It matters enough that I'm not poor and dying, but past that,
we're glad
it doesn't.
Yeah,
matter.
It really rings hollow when the only real message is, "We're glad you're still alive."
Yeah,
Like,
unfortunately, I don't talk to them as much because I know that's how the conversation is gonna go, and I'm just tired of having it, and it's an unfortunate thing, yes, but that's what it is, and it sucks, but that's how it is.
It reminds me of like with you having people having told you that you need to talk to your grandparents. I've had girlfriends and friends that are like, "Why don't you talk to your mom?" Because my mother is not a part of my birth mother is not actually a part of my life. Because a whole lot of stuff, like legally, was not allowed to be a part of my life. And people have asked me that same question of like, "Well, why don't you talk to her?" Like, because I have the ability to. I'm an adult. Like,
Yep.
I have found her after a long time.
You can do that.
But there's nothing in it for me because,
Why?
I don't know this person. And
That's honestly
it's kind of the same for you.
With my dad. It's the exact same way with my dad. My parents divorced. My dad was also pretty much not part of my family for the most part. I saw him, when I was younger, I saw him maybe twice when I was a kid every year, and that was typically because of my birthday or Nicole's birthday. But other than that, didn't see him, didn't talk to him, and as I got older, I remember talking to a friend of mine about this. It was it was actually, my dad actually got really sick a few years ago, to the point where he actually might have died. And I remember talking to some friends, and they're like, do you ever think about reaching out to your dad and talking to him, because this health scare, he could die at any moment. And I remember telling them, I go, no, because to me, I don't know this person. They're essentially a stranger to me because they weren't part of my life for a good majority of it. And they still send me birthday money and Christmas money and and stuff like that. But apart from that, I don't know them. I really don't, and they don't know me. And then it went into another part of like, also, I think if I saw my dad, I think if I ever came physically face to face with my dad, I don't know if I could stay rational or calm. Truly. Just from like the emotions and just the memories of him not being there. I really just don't know as an adult. I just don't know if I could be cool, keep my composure. Truly.
Not in any sort of like in a higher place than you. I definitely could personally, but I think he's your father. So there's a different dynamic between two males and a male and female.
Yeah.
In that case, like I could definitely get angry with people. I can't really get. I don't think that I could get to that level with my mom. And I think you had more interactions with your dad than I did with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different dynamic there between even between strangers who are different sexes. The way that I view it is like you were saying, if your dad had passed away, you would have been, okay, it's somebody.
Like, that's sad, but okay.
For me, it's like I can feel sad when somebody I don't know passes away. If my mom passed away, I'd be like, cool. Like almost in the same vein of the Jeanette McCurdy thing. Like I'm glad my mom died. I don't think I'd necessarily be glad. I wouldn't write a book being like, I'm glad my mom died.
You wouldn't be happy, but you wouldn't be sad.
Yeah, I would be neutral to positive.
Yeah. I actually one of my band directors, my high school band directors, they were a married couple, and I think it was last year the husband passed away, and that was. I don't think I've ever been so indifferent to a death that was that close to me before. And it's because of that I did not like him as a teacher.
Okay.
He wasn't a great teacher either in my opinion. He also low-key blackmailed me, but we'll save that story for another time.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember, because I heard that news. It was on Facebook, just because that's where old people go. But like I saw that news and I was like, okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go get lunch now, and like I went about my day. Like I didn't bat an eye. I didn't like, and I was shocked by I wasn't shocked by him passing away. I was shocked at myself of like, wow, I thought I would be sad. I thought I was going to be sadder about it, and I wasn't, just because of the memories that I had and my experiences with him weren't that great. And it's not that I held resentment, but it was just like he didn't leave a whole lot of positive memories for me, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
On the flip side of that, apparently not many people have great grandparents that they get to meet, especially for extended periods of time. But I did. I was actually lucky enough to know my great grandmother on my dad's side, and both of my great grandparents on my. She's technically my step grandmother, so her parents. But like she's my grandma. Like literally, I didn't even know that she wasn't actually my birth grandma for a really long time.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. They were my great grandparents. She's my grandma. All of that, and so my great grandma on my grandma's side is also still alive, or is still alive. But her husband, my great grandpa, passed away a few years ago. And when they both passed away, like I was like, "Aw, that sucks." But like, and I had really good memories with them. Less from my great grandma on my dad's side. She lived in California, so I barely ever got to see her. But my great grandpa, he lived just like 40 minutes away, and we used to go there for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and like I did a report on him because he was in World War II, like so, and I got to know him a little bit, like not a ton. But they were both older people, so it was like I wasn't sad because they died because they were older. It wasn't like they, like. Sure, I would have liked to spend more time with them, but like their time was just
right.
up.
Yeah, and that you know, it's like that's just. The
it wasn't a
nature of
tragic death.
Yeah.
It was like they're old.
Yeah,
they had some meaning in my life, but I wasn't sad. Necessarily, I'm sad now that I'm thinking about it, but I think it's just because I'm thinking about it as much as I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I miss my grandma.
Yeah.
But like, you know, my great grandpa was like 94. My great grandma was like 93. Like they were old.
Yeah.
Like you were not supposed to live that old anyway.
Yeah.
So I was just like, damn. I thought they were never gonna die.
Yeah.
One of those things.
Yeah, and like for me, like I lost my grandfather in April, and again he was old. And unfortunately, I was sad about that. 100%, I was sad about it. And then I lost a buddy of mine back in September due to COVID, and it's like those two deaths. Like I wasn't sad to the point of like crying and weeping as I knew other people were, but I was definitely sad about them. But when I heard about my band director passing away, and I felt nothing. Yeah. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel grief. I just felt, oh, that's some interesting news. Anyways, back to my world. And is one of those things where it's like I look at it and I go, man, I feel like I should be sadder, but I just can't. And like. And it's one of those things where it's just the impact that he left on me was not good, and then
I definitely don't. Yeah. I don't blame you, and I don't think anybody would necessarily look down on you. Like maybe the family would be like,
like I'm not gonna.
You meant more to us.
Yeah, like I'm not.
But it's not like you're going out of your way to be like, hey,
whatever,
your husband was a piece of shit. Yeah, like that's not what you're doing. You're just like, he left. He didn't really leave a positive impression on me. Like,
and I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm sadder for the family than I am for him. That's that's where I'm at.
Right.
Like all right, yeah, sure. So I think on that positive note, I think that is where we will end tonight's episode of the C Podcast. Everyone, thank you so much for coming and watching this. If you missed tonight's episode, obviously you can check it out on my YouTube channel eventually when this comes out next week. So be on the lookout for that. But as always, though, my name is Shogun Shin. That is Hex Ginkgo. This has been the C Podcast. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.